I'm here today with Chris Bones Burns, second degree black belt under Rickson Gracie, founder and head instructor of 0 Point Gracie Jiu Jitsu in Sydney, Australia.
Dude, you're not going to get good unless you learn the move and do it repetitively. I call that drilling. I think if you are shown a thing and then you do the thing and then you slowly add resistance to the thing, you're drilling something. Now, if you want to call it something else and say it's not drilling so that you can sell an online instructional saying that we don't drill, go get it, Tiger. I hope your bank account's filling up. You're supposed to drill with zero resistance. I hate this job. How do you learn something when someone's resisting the thing? Like if I had to learn how to drive a car and there's no brake and I got to stop the car, but I'm supposed to push that pedal, how are you supposed to learn how to do things? You are supposed to be told what to do so you learn how to do it, and then you gently start doing it. You don't drive a million miles an hour, you gently push the pedal. You have a partner that is going to do the move with you, and you have an instructor that tells you why the move exists. It doesn't just show you a move and says, fuck around and find out. I want the partner to go, it exists because they did this, this, and this. And then you're going to get to do this. Now, to do this, and this. Hang on, try again. Put your left hand there.
You made the claim like, yeah, we should be drilling without resistance. We need to be doing a lot of repetitions to learn these moves, and then we need to integrate them. And I made the claim that a repetition of these moves without resistance is the most wasteful thing that most people are doing in most sports. We want to back this up and go like to a fundamental level of like, why am I saying this wild claim? And like, I was also...
It's not wild. I want to know.
Yeah.
So the reason we're doing this, by the way, internet, is because we're adults. And he sent me a nice message and he talked to me like a big boy. I want to know this because I have people asking me all the time because they think it's this hot button fucking topic. Like, because it is. It's cool. I want to learn why this is such a useful thing. And that's why so many people are passionate about it. So please explain to me why you're passionate about this. And the context that I'm thinking is you're building better athletes, right? Okay. I'm not building athletes. I'm showing 75-year-old women how to get out of a headlock, right? So I put a line in the sand for me when I'm teaching Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, because Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has this weird blur to it where you've got people that complain like, well, self-defense is fucking, it's never going to work. I'll kill you anyways. And then you're teaching a cross-collar choke. That's self-defense. That's a sport. Cool. You're an asshat. There's a difference between the two curriculums. One is teaching how to defend yourself and one is teaching situational awareness. If you're teaching the sport, I want to know how you teach it best. So that's where ecological learning thing comes in. I'll stop talking.
This is great. Before I kind of go on a rant, I wanted to give you a compliment, and just say that, within the traditional paradigm of like what skill is and how we teach people and how people learn, like all of that in the traditional sense, you do a really excellent job of that. And you are a really like passionate instructor, teacher, right? And like, your energy is there, right? And that's something that I think a lot of people in the ecological dynamics camp can like start to overlook because they're like, oh, well, science says this is like all wrong, and these are like bad, right? But like we have to step back. Like we start our teaching is based on our assumptions, right? And based on those assumptions, some of us, we kind of sort of teach because we kind of sort of care. And we're, the people, right? That they coach because they were an athlete for a long time and they can. And there's people that coach because they really are excited and they care about it and they want to get people good at the thing and use everything at their disposal to do that in the best way they can. Right. And it's very clear that you're doing that. And so I just wanted to give you that.
No, I'm just a failed athlete. No, fuck no. Ew. Didn't want to compete when I competed. Ew. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much for being so nice.
I think your passion for instruction shows. But
thank you.
You can disagree. That's your
it's I won't disagree with that because I think the high point for me when I started jiu-jitsu, was literally I wanted to learn how to defend myself if I didn't have a weapon, and I didn't want to go to jail for stabbing a man in the eye. So that's a whole thing for me. I need to learn how to defend myself hand to hand without a weapon. Just part of the to do list of a man for me. So when I started, I ended up being there a lot. And because I was there a lot, the guy who owned the place was like, "Hey, you want to run classes?" I was like, "I'm a white belt." He's like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just open the door." I'm like, "Okay, I'll just open the door." So I opened the door, and then I started showing the things that I was learning to these people, and the look of recognition on their face like really hit me because I was in like a super dark place when I started doing shit. And I think the thing that kept me going the most was helping other people because I didn't give a shit about helping anybody else ever. Like, I was like, "No, fuck you. I'm here to die." It was weird for me that this weird slowly came in of like, well, you've got a 10 o'clock and you're going to help them and they're going to feel really good for the rest of the day. And that made me feel good. There's this altruism kind of thing that kept me from just offing myself. So I think it became my job by default. And I'm very passionate about it because I'm also teaching something that a lot of people don't teach. So I'm trying to teach Gracie Jiu Jitsu correctly. So I feel like that one's got a bad name for itself over the past few years in the sport community. So that gives me that extra oomph of passion. And then spending so long with Hickson and really caring about teaching invisible jujitsu, which is something you don't get to see on camera. Like, I just take your back. Like, okay, well, you have to feel it so that you understand why you can't just take the back. That's even more like levels of cool, man. This is something that nobody else gets. So I want to make sure I can preserve it and pass it down. So another reason why I'm doing this is because maybe I can learn an even better way to preserve and pass this down. Can you tell me logically, simply, in like black and white, what is ecological? What is it? Is it ecological learning dynamics?
Ecological dynamics and the
Okay.
ecological dynamics approach. There's kind of 6 fundamental principles of ecological dynamics, and then 4 of the constraints-led approach, where we kind of like take that theory and put it rubber meets the road and get the wheels turning, right? So fundamentally, we're talking about living organisms as complex adaptive systems. You don't have to know what all this means right now. Living organisms as complex adaptive systems where behaviors emerge out of the relationship between the performer and the environment. So, for instance, I know you're probably zoning out, and what I want to say, wherever you get lost, a lot of people are going to be getting lost. So you can just ask me, yeah, like start us off. Where do we go?
Hear me out. So I'm not smart. I voraciously like chase knowledge and I want to grow and I want to change and I want to evolve as a person before I die. I want to get to the best level that I can be and then pass that shit down, evolution, etc. I read Being in Time like 6 fucking times to shove it in my head like a brick. So if it took 6 times to learn that that Dacian is the being of the being of the being of the being's being, I'm not going to get this the first time. So let's do that part one more time and make it as dumb as possible, please.
So, I mean, that's my attempt to like shove it all into like before
That
when we
was the
talked.
dumb one? Fuck, I'm
Well,
screwed.
no, that was the short one. So before when we talked, you were like, can you do it in 10 words? And I gave you a 30-word thing. So I
I know.
was working on that one. But the problem with it is it's so compressed because we can't actually talk about everything in 10, 15 words.
Uh,
So let me get to the principles kind of one by one,
okay.
and then we'll start making more sense.
The
So,
Dacian. Yeah.
so we'll start breaking it up. So the first one is direct perception. Okay. So the idea is that there are opportunities for action in our environment, right? They emerge out of our relationship with the environment, right? So like, you in your environment right now, those chess pieces are in front of you. So the idea is rather than like in traditional coaching is based on, traditional information processing frameworks. In those frameworks, if you were to pick up those chess pieces right now, there's a whole bunch of steps that you would have to go through that they would say. So they would say that the information coming to your eyes about the chess pieces isn't good enough. That, okay, so you take that bad information, your brain fixes it using memories, inferences, all sorts of shit. And and then you create from that fixed information a representation of the world, right? So imagine in your head, you've got a model of you in the environment with the chess pieces in front of you, right? And then in that model, you would choose an action from you would cognitively choose as if from an action menu. Am I going to pick up a chess piece? Am I going to pick up that water bottle? Am I going to stand up, sit down, whatever. You choose the action you do, and then you do it, right? So it's just huge, lots of steps. They're all complicated. And actually, there's a bunch of theoretical problems with a lot of those. Versus in ecological dynamics, we think the information you need to, for instance, pick up one of those chess pieces in front of you, all the information you need to do that, to organize that behavior, is there in the relationship between you and the chess pieces. Does that make sense?
Absolutely not.
Okay, so imagine, there's light, right? There's light coming in the room, and it's bouncing off those chess pieces, and then it comes to your eyes, right? So you're getting that optic information, plus auditory information, so sound is bouncing all around, plus proprioceptive information, your joints are telling you where they are, vestibular information, right? Your inner ears telling you where your head, you're getting all this information, right? And so from that information, what we're saying is for you to coordinate an action, the information you need to coordinate that action is everything you need is directly there and it's already good.
Okay.
Your brain doesn't need to fix it. There's no mental representation in your brain of the world around you. You're actually directly interacting with your environment. Does that make sense?
Sure. What was that part called again? Part one is
direct perception.
So direct perception is chess piece there. Me see chest piece. Chest piece. Chest. You can see Freudian slip. Me see chess piece. Me touch piece. Me move piece.
Sure. Not even in those steps, actually. You, in looking at that piece, you can perceive your ability to move it.
Oh, so
it's there.
This isn't a pipe. Okay, cool. All right. This is the whole thing.
This isn't a pipe? What do you mean?
It's a painting. It's a painting of a pipe. This isn't a pipe. It's a painting of a pipe. Never mind. I took it further.
That's I think I'm not familiar with what you're talking about, but I think that's related. Yeah. Sure. It's
okay.
There's no mental representation of the chess piece is what we're saying.
This doesn't have to be chess. This could just be a thing that I hit my coffee with. Cool.
Exactly.
I do things with that.
Right. And you perceive the opportunity to smash the water bottle with the chess piece in the information in the environment. Or a jiu-jitsu example, right? Say, you're doing an armbar, or you want to do an armbar, right? Rather than you've got this mental representation in your head of what an armbar is, and a stored motor program of how to do an armbar generally, and that you choose that from an action menu, that all the information that you need to tell you if there's an opportunity for an armbar is there already in the environment. You can directly perceive the opportunity to take that action.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I got that one. Yeah. So if I understand that you bend it this way, it breaks. If I know it's in the place where I bend it, it breaks, I have armbar.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. Yeah. Exactly. We could say more broadly, you're perceiving armbar ability, but it would basically
I need to talk about the photosynthesis of the juxtaposition to the armbar. Me bend now, it breaks. Got it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. But so what you're talking about, how we would describe that is there's an invariant here of all arm bars that we're extending the arm, right? That's an invariant property of any arm bar. Okay. Yeah, I think you got it. Yeah, great.
Got it.
Okay, moving on. We're chugging along here.
So that was part two?
That was part one. That's all direct perception.
So part one, me bend thing, it break.
Yeah. Again,
chess piece. I move chess piece. I do whatever I want with the chess piece.
You don't need mental representations of the chess pieces in order to perceive that you can move them.
Of an armbar to know that it's an armbar. I don't need mental representation of an armbar to know that it's an armbar. So explain what mental representation is.
Yeah, so that's kind of a fuzzy concept, actually. There's a
This is gonna
lot
have
of
a
these
fuzzy
things.
concept? Got it.
Well, so a lot of these things aren't like super well defined, right? Like even like in the depths of the science, it's like it's hard to describe, and you can't really prove what a mental representation is. But that's the foundational part of traditional approaches. And that's sort of like one of these things where we're saying, yeah, that doesn't really make so much sense. This makes more sense. Having taught so many people, I think a lot of this will match up much better with your actual experience of all the things you've seen than the traditional approach. So for instance, I don't know if you've ever had someone come in where like, they spar and they haven't really trained yet. You haven't really taught them things. But one of the ideas is you wouldn't need for someone to understand what an armbar is for them to be able to perceive that action, right? Like it's theoretically possible. Versus in the traditional approach, like the information coming in is fundamentally poor. It's fundamentally, there are things missing that you cannot get back unless you fix it with a mental representation. So like, I'm sure you've seen people all the time, like they'll do, like what I see a lot with untrained people is they'll do like headlocks, right? Like one idea, like you don't need to know what a headlock is to perceive the ability to grab someone's head and hold it.
If you want to go deeper, get practical, and apply all the science to learning BJJ, I've created a comprehensive online course based on my master's research in ecological dynamics. The full course already contains over 4 hours of carefully designed tasks and sparring footage covering every major area of BJJ, from close guard to entanglements, from standing to submissions, so you can develop a comprehensive grappling skill set and feel for yourself how the ecological approach can be applied skillfully and how dramatic the advantage is. Each task builds on the previous ones in nonlinear ways, with clear win conditions and concise language so that you can run these games effectively without a full lecture between each round. And unlike the status quo for ecological jiu-jitsu coaches right now, these games overlap and connect very intentionally so you don't develop any holes in your game. This course is essentially everything I've learned about applying ecological dynamics to grappling, structured so you can either train with a partner, small group, or use it as a complete curriculum template. You can find it through the link in the description below.
Moving on to number 2, direct learning. So direct learning is the idea that we learn, again, not through those mental representations or changing those mental representations, but rather that our perceptual experience directly drives learning. So for instance, you have an armbar, someone gets out, right? In that process, and you say you run that over and over. You like EBI overtime rounds, right? You start an armbar, and maybe you get the submission, maybe someone gets out. The idea is that so to backtrack a little bit to direct perception, the nerdy way to say direct perception is that you can represent perception as a single valued function of a single informational variable. So imagine you have a information goes in, one variable that amalgamates all sorts of stuff. It goes into a function, and that function outputs, do you perceive the ability to do an armbar or any other action, right? So we have a few different things there, right? So we have attention of like, what informational variable are you looking at, right? When you look to like, see, can you do an armbar, or can you pick up a chess piece, or can you move the cup, or anything, what information tells you that that action is available, right? That's a huge part of learning. And this is consistent in both approaches, right? It's just underemphasized in the traditional approach, where we really emphasize it. So that's education of attention. Which informational variable are you looking at, right? What are you focused on? And that's one thing where even in traditional instruction, we teach a lot, right? Like what tells you that you have the opportunity for an armbar, or the opportunity for a throw, or the opportunity for any of this? Like we teach that even in the traditional approach, right? Yeah. So that's education of attention. There's education of intention, right? So like, what are you even trying to do? What perceptions and actions are you even attempting to actualize? So, for instance, maybe you're trying to do an armbar, but the situation is where an armbar is a terrible idea. Like, even attempting to do an armbar is a terrible idea, and much better to pass the guard first or do a takedown first, right? So educating your intention of what you're trying to do is one of the things that happens with learning. So direct learning is saying that with experience, we are educating our attention, what goes into the function. We're educating our intention, what thing we're trying to do. We're kind of like refining calibration. So we're refining that perception function. And just generally that through experience, we are learning. And we can represent that mathematically with like the things that are going into the function of like, if you're paying attention to a variable that doesn't correlate with the affordance you're intending to do, that could drive us to paying attention to a more useful attentional variable.
I'm going to have to rewind the shit out of this.
That's all good. Great. I mean, again, like I spent the last 2 years digging into this like night and day.
Yeah,
this is not easy
fucking
stuff.
Knowledgeable.
Thank you. I've been really working on my explanations to like try to get this, concise and clear. So does that make sense, direct learning?
No. I'm trying to make this make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get rid of the idea of the armbar because there's so many variables.
Sure.
Let's say you
start
the student in a headlock. So you're saying you put them in a headlock.
Like a front headlock from standing or like
schoolyard headlock.
Okay.
Just old school bulldog choke headlock. And you're saying in order for them to learn the escape to the headlock, they would have to discover the variables for themselves and they would just kind of fuck around and find out?
So what we're saying this is fundamental to how learning happens, to how organisms operate, not just humans. We're saying this is how learning is always happening. Whether you're teaching with tasks or you're teaching with drills or you're teaching with feedback or a combination of all of it or whatever you're doing, like that this is how it works.
The best way of learning is to fuck around and find out. I'm not being facetious. I'm just trying to put it in my words.
We're not saying that.
Everything I say sounds like I'm being facetious at all times because like everything's with a grain of fucking salt in my world these days. So
sure.
I'm not diminishing this. I'm curious.
Totally.
If we put a student in a schoolyard headlock on the ground and it's their first day and we give them a restraint, like I want you to get out of the headlock, but you're not allowed to use your left arm. Is that kind of like what are we doing?
Sure.
Is that it?
Sure,
okay.
Sure.
Okay. So you're physically learning how to move your body under deficits so that you can learn how to move better.
Let's think about like how we would actually approach learning based on this stuff later.
All right. So every fucking Tuesday, we're going to do this until I have to go out of town. This is a private lesson for me. You're going to be teaching me ecological learning stuff once a week. Like if we could do this together and it becomes a thing, if we have to do 10 of these, it's a series and maybe we come out the other end knowing something different and we can push it towards more people for knowledge.
Yeah.
So fuck it. Let's do this.
I'm down. Yeah. So what we're saying is, how about this? Direct learning is saying when you fuck around, you find out. Like
Perfect.
Learning happens.
If anything, I have taught you how to be more direct in your explanations. Direct learning is like fuck around and find out. Part 1.
Learning happens through experience.
I like it.
Like it doesn't have to change.
Without all the big words, I'm literally going to write this down for my notes. So, what was it? This is part 1. What is it called again?
Direct learning.
Direct learning. Fuck around and find out.
Learning happens through experience directly.
Ooh, okay. Learning happens through experience. Fuck around and find out. Got it.
So, like, imagine you're in that headlock. Again, maybe you're a day one person. Let's, for argument's sake, let's say you haven't been taught anything. You don't have any mental representations, right? If you're in a headlock, let's say there's 2 kind of general directions it could go. You could escape or you could get submitted. It's pretty clear in both of those situations that escaping is a good thing and that being submitted is a bad thing. And so in both of those situations, some good learning is going to happen, right? If you got submitted, your brain, your body in that, the dynamics of your relationship with your opponent and the partner in the ground and how that all played into you getting submitted, that was probably bad, right? And all those dynamics of how that played into you escaping, that was probably good. Yeah.
Sure, that's part two.
That's direct learning.
Okay, so that was direct learning. That was part one. Part one was direct learning. So fuck around and find out. And if you got out, whatever you did was probably good. And if you didn't get out, whatever you did was probably bad. Okay, so the scientific
And so just to add a little more into that, you're not just learning at that outcome, you're learning at every level that goes into it, like all sorts of stuff, right? Like all sorts of, so like you're not just learning, oh, I got submitted, oh, I didn't. There's all sorts of dynamics of how my body, if you got me in the front headlock, right? There's all sorts of dynamics of how my body is organized and how your body is organized and the movement that is happening as I'm trying to get out and you're trying to submit me. And I'm learning at every stage of that, right?
Okay. So this is, again, this is a scientifically proven way of learning faster than drilling a repetitious movement, right?
Proven is a strong word.
Cool.
There's a lot of evidence.
Okay, so this is evidence-based. And when we say evidence-based, this is in the sport of jiu-jitsu. Like, you have people that are winning at a high level faster because they learn like this by fucking around and finding out. This is part one, for real.
So, that's not really like strong scientific evidence. Like now people are winning, right? But like before it wasn't. And even now it's not strong scientific evidence either way because...
Why did this become a thing? Like, why did this become a way of teaching and this passion for a bunch of dorks out there? Why did people start really kind of grasping onto this, going, like, no, this is the way of teaching? When did that happen and why?
That's a great question. There's a lot of evidence in a lot of different sports when we test the practical application. There's both levels. So there's like the really nerdy theoretical underpinnings. Yep. Of like,
oh, you used underpinnings. Nice. Got it.
Of like all the stuff behind the traditional approach that like there's theoretical problems with it, right? And so, the people far nerdier than I can really pick at those underpinnings and say, that's a logical fallacy. That's a logical fallacy.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. So explain fucking logical fallacy because the onus is upon you now. So what is the logical fallacy? This is, when you describe the idea of traditional structure in teaching, I'm curious as to what you think the fucking inter-dorks think that the traditional structure of teaching is, because everybody teaches differently. And I'm very curious about that. So what is this being compared to? Is this being compared to like Rowdy Rob's Pound House, where they're just going to show you a move and then you go fucking brawl it out? Or is this going to be like a higher educational center where the person explains why we're doing a thing, when we're doing a thing, and this is the perfect version of the escape or the submission? So you get two separate schools right there, and then that gray area in between where I saw it on YouTube and I'm going to teach you in the garage. So every school you go to is going to be very different. Everyone's going to teach in a different way. What I'm curious about is the idea of this is not scientifically proven, but kind of scientifically proven to be a better way of teaching now. So again, I want to like backstep to the start of this thing. Like, I want to know, man. I'm actually down because there's always like the two schools of like the old school guys and then the new school guys, and they want to shit on each other. It's like a gang warfare thing. First off, this is a small fishbowl and your hobby is so gay. This is like the stupidest fucking hobby. Go get another hobby. If this is your life, work harder. This is a passion for me. I want to be able to share Gracie Jiu-Jitsu correctly. And I feel like I can do that with eloquence and dick jokes as straightforward as possible and tell you why you shouldn't fuck around and find out versus fuck around and find out. So I really want to know for realsies why this is a better way of teaching comparatively. So I guess we have to find out what we're comparing it against. So what are we comparing it against? What's the traditional format of teaching?
So I think you may be an undercover nerd here. You know?
Did you tell me that I'm smart and handsome in one podcast? Oh,
So, I mean, the problem is, like, if we really want to dig into it deep, like, answer the real question, like, there's kind of two questions you asked, right? Like, what's the evidence? And then, like, why do we think this, right?
there's no
If
actual.
we really want to,
Right.
there's a lot of actual evidence, like, tested in sports.
I'm genuinely curious about that. So,
And then there's a lot of evidence at a, like, fundamental theoretical level of, like, for instance, like looking at how hand movements are coordinated and all sorts of stuff that then it works from both sides. But yeah, if we want to really dig in to like why I think this is better, because I went the same way. Like, look, I'm not gonna. I need to know that this is actually better, you know, before I'm gonna like. Yeah, I'm gonna actually dig the fuck into this.
so you were an adult.
Before I start making videos telling, you know, the whole
Fuck yeah.
internet that like this is the better way to do things, right? So yeah, that's been the last 2 years for me. But
That's very impressive
So-
that you put your time into this.
thank you. Yeah, it's been exciting and fun, honestly. I there's nothing I'd rather do. Most of the evidence for me that's like the most critical, and probably for you as well, is like they're using the CLA versus traditional instruction. And so like this is what you were talking about with like
What's
what is
CLA?
traditional instruction? CLA is the constraints-led approach. We'll get to that. So my take on traditional instruction is like, and this is some generalities that should hold true.
Just so you know, I thought
Against all the-
CLA was a powder that you put in your water for your joints.
That's also yeah, that's another thing. Conjugated linoleic acid, but you know what?
Okay, so
Um,
direct learning was fuck around and find out. Now we're on to the side of direct learning. We're not at number 2, but we're kind of fucking around with number 1, right?
We're fucking around at a random place for a second. How I would characterize traditional instruction. This is a really great question, by the way. Traditional coaches assume that your brain is storing motor programs and that we can install these motor programs through repetition, right? So if we drill the armbar enough times, we drill the sweep enough times, we install it in the brain, and then that it can be recalled automatically, right? So that's where we get the like unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence to conscious competence to unconscious competence, right? Where we're moving through those stages where we need less conscious control for more skill. So in the traditional approach, coaches are using repetition to drive, and I was there too, you know, so we were all there, right? We're using repetition. I'll say it right now. I said in a video that is still public that if you give me enough volume, enough repetition, I'll get you any skill. You know, I've had a pretty, you know, because we all think that's the traditional approach, is if we just drill it enough, you will develop any skill, right? You will install it in the brain. You'll be able to recall it under any condition. And then, so what we do, this is sort of comes back to your video, right? If we want to install those motor programs, we have ideal techniques, right? The idea would be that there's a theoretical perfect way to do a sumigashi or an uchimata or an armbar or any technique. There's a perfect way to do it. And so in the traditional approach, we're coaching people towards that perfect ideal, right? And we're giving them feedback, right? This is, again, like you mentioned in your video, right? Put the right hand here. No, not there. The right hand here, right? Like people really struggle with that sort of stuff. And so we give them feedback to drive them towards that perfect theoretical ideal technique. We do them repetition, and then they install it in the brain. That's the idea. And then they can recall it and integrate it in sport context. So we have the drilling where it's isolated, where it's low resistance. Then we have maybe a situational sparring section where they try to do the move in the context. And then maybe we have like the full sparring, randori. Maybe you do like self-defense scenarios with resistance, right? Like whatever sport, like that's grappling, that's traditional soccer, tennis. Like this is a very universal way that coaches approach sports. Would you say that's accurate?
Okay, so dependent on the school, yes, I would. So what I specifically do, and I'm like an offshoot of the way Gracie University taught me, because before I went to Gracie University to learn how to teach jujitsu, which I recommend, by the way, I don't teach the curriculum. I just genuinely like the way that they structure their classes. I like the way that they present the move, and there's a term for it, because I know you guys have the ecological and you got the cool words, but there's a term for what they said. It's basically shading. So you're teaching, and you're teaching at specific levels. If I have a line of people that have never done a class before, they're not going to spar. Love of God. I'm going to teach them why we're in this situation. So we start off by presenting the situation. Let's say it's a fucking headlock. We're already doing this. I've got them in a headlock. Now, from this headlock, these are your goals and these are your parameters. When I show them that kind of thing, we're speaking the same fucking language here. I tell them why we're here, so I give context, and then I show them how this move is done. And when I show them how the move is done, I show them what's referred to as slices. So I show it dumb, then I show it a little bit smarter, and I show it really fucking smart, and then I show it dumb. So that way I hit every single person on that wall, because I could have a white belt and a black belt. One person over there knows exactly what's happening. The other one's like, what the fuck is happening? That was the black belt, by the way. When you teach this way,
just one sec. When you say like a smart and dumb slices, like what exactly do you mean by that?
Let's give it this way. So holding here, the very first thing I want you to do, turn your chin, roll your shoulders, hide your neck. Now, second thing, roll this shoulder, post your foot. 2 hands, wrists. That's it. I teach like a caveman style. Okay. Now the next time. All right, everybody understand. Cool. So what I want you to do specifically, I want you to make sure that you swing your legs in this direction and squeeze your core. That's going to help you move your body. Push this top shoulder in as hard as you can while you pull this shoulder away. Tuck your chin and roll your shoulders. Make sure that you are pushing the hands into them. Right. When we do that, the reason why we do that is, this is like the third version. So when I teach it another way. All right, make sure you tuck your chin, you fucking retard. You're going to get squeezed. So when you tuck your chin, hide your neck. So you're hiding your neck, you're hiding your face, you're not going to get punched in the face. You're going to grab onto this. The reason we're grabbing onto this, if I wrap this way, they're going to make sure that they can pull it away. I shouldn't wrap it that way. I should wrap it like this and this, because they cannot do that. I'm going to physically tell them their common mistakes and their essential details. Those are kind of like buzzwords for teaching. You'll hear a lot of Gracie instructors say, most common mistake, essential detail, etc. I like that. I usually swear a lot more. I was like, don't fuck up. Fucking hold them like this. Cool? So you hold them like this because of this, 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 and this. I explain why you do this. You don't touch the hot pan because this, this, and this. If I do this, hot pan. So do this. And then at the end, I go right back to tuck your chin, roll your shoulder, hold that shit down, try not to fuck it up, grab a partner, 3 reps, reverse rolls, 3, 2, 1. Everybody goes out and they practice the thing that they learned. So I like the way that was presented to me when I was learning how to teach, because before that it was anarchy. I would show up and you're like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to open the guard. And the student will look at me and go like, what's a guard? Oh, it's your first day. Okay, so this is a guard. And you waste like 30 minutes trying to explain a context of something. Your presentation of something means something to me. So if I'm going to teach a beginner and say, you're in a headlock, like how? Why? Why are we in a headlock? Present the problem. Be very blatant about why we're in a headlock on the ground and why they're pushing into you hard. Because what if they're pulling? What if they're sitting up? What if they're on their knees? What if will create another fuck around and find out example. But the idea is, I don't have you fuck around and find out. I give you a cheat code. I tell you, hold here when they do this. That way you don't have to get hurt fucking around and finding out. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And that's why, like, this is why I get so excited about this stuff, is like, I think if you keep going the direction you're going, when you understand this is going to give you like, and this goes for all coaches, like switching from traditional approaches, like it gives you so much more power and leverage to just accomplish the things you are already trying to do better, and to also recognize like the really effective things and the things that we're already doing, and then the less effective things and the things we're, like, and just get more out of it. Like it's so great. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So to keep keep going here. So our next one is where like things get a little
No,
crazy.
no. Oh no. Here's I think
Okay.
because it's 10:11, I can see the clock, and I've got people rocking up to put up the filming equipment, 50 shit, and we do a fucking part 2.
I'll say for me, this has given me so much value to like just be able to do so much more as a teacher, as an instructor. And oh God, do I love like giving that to other people, you know?
That's
like,
awesome, man.
I mean, because that's
cool.
why we teach, right? Because we like doing that. You know, if we didn't like it, why would we be teaching in the first place? What I love about this too is like, you know, most coaches are at the place where you were an hour ago, you know, where it's like, dude, what is this bullshit? Like, like, what is it? I don't understand. And 2, like, it's bullshit, you know?
Dude, most people don't want to be wrong. So that's the shitty part. That's the really shitty part, is that nobody is reaching out and trying to be wrong. The reason I fly to fucking America to train with Rickson Gracie is because he tells me that I'm wrong and explains why. I don't just roll around on the ground with him and try and fucking win. That is the most Western culture shit. Like, cool, go fuck around, man. Leave me alone. I want to go out into the peripheries and I want to find out why I'm wrong about things and I want to learn something new. So there's never going to be a version of me that's just going to shit on something for no reason. I'll shit on you for a reason, Tiger. So fuck off. And like, I will give you my opinion. But you have been a gentleman and I have enjoyed this and I'm learning and I'm growing and I can't wait to do the next one.
Amazing.
I hope this leads
Couldn't
the way
ask
for
more.
other instructors to like open up and not be a douche.
We kind of left off we finished direct perception and direct learning, right? So
Fuck around and find out.
fuck around and find out. That was direct learning. That's good.
I'm gonna write a book on ecological learning process after this. It's gonna be like fucking 10 pages.
Yeah. So, okay. Our third principle is self-organization. So this is where
Told
things
you.
get really cool. Okay. So, hi.
Do you find this interesting? No, there's dog hair.
Oh, wait. Here we go. Look, I've got my prop.
What? Oh, I thought you were gonna. What is that?
Have you seen these?
Oh, that's one of those little spinning leaves.
Yeah, you see. Let's see.
What
Yes?
country are you in?
America.
Yeah, we don't have that here. I don't think you're gonna see that until you go visit Grandma and Papa. Yeah, what are they called? Those little spinning leaves. What are they called?
Helicopter seeds, you know?
Okay. Yeah.
So here's the idea. In the traditional model, your brain controls what your body does, right? Your brain tells the muscles what to do like it's a puppeteer controlling a puppet. So what we're saying is actually there's a lot of that also comes bottom up. So for instance, like with this seed, it has a structure, right? And you could say there's information stored within that structure with how this structure interacts with the environment. So how it interacts with air, with gravity, in a way where, like, you know, when you drop it, it spins, right?
Yep.
So in the same way, our muscles also contain a lot of information. Our muscles, our joints, our ligaments, our tendons, our bones, the limb length ratios, right? There's information stored within that. We think about it as there's a lot of evidence for coordination being a process that emerges out of self-organization. So self-organization, it's a property of many systems where a higher order pattern emerges out of the characteristics and interactions of the subunits. So, for instance, a school of fish, right? Or a flock of birds. The whole group has this intelligent behavior, right? Or this seemingly intelligent behavior where it does things together or it moves together. You know, there's a predator come, they all move out of the way. And it seems like
I've had like 7 jokes since the start, and I've been like, I'm not doing
hit
that
him,
one.
hit him.
Not doing that one.
Let's hear it.
Not doing that one. I missed that. Like that last one was most groups have seemingly intelligent. What was it?
Seemingly intelligent behavior.
Yeah, that's most groups. Most groups have seemingly intelligent behavior. There's a good sex joke one, like a little further back. I forgot it already. But yeah, most groups have seemingly intelligent behavior until you fucking deal with them. But whatever, it's cool.
Okay, moving on. So, if you have a school of fish, the behavior of the group actually emerges not from like a master fish that tells all the other fish what to do, or a master bird that tells all the other birds what to do. It's the characteristics of each fish and how they interact with like the water and the fish around them. You know, given, okay, when the fish to your left moves, then you might want to move to the left. And the fish to your right moves to the right, you might want to move to the right. You know, and then now you scale that sort of stuff up, and now the whole group does intelligent things, right? Even though nothing's actually controlling the group itself. It's just the subunits.
Hang on. So you're saying when like a bunch of lemmings head towards a cliff, it's an intelligent decision?
It's self-organized. It's.
Well, he's going that way. Fuck it. Let's go that way.
I mean, yeah.
All right, cool.
I don't know about lemmings. I think like bulls can do that, right? Like if they, you know, what's the word for that when they like charge and yeah, if they start going, they can start following each other off. I think that's how actually hunter-gatherers used to hunt sometimes. They try to get a whole herd of like buffalo going. They'd stampede. And you try to get them to stampede right off the cliff, and then you get the fire going on down at the bottom.
So I'm not convinced on this one yet.
Okay, yeah. Well, so the behavior doesn't have to be intelligent, right? Like it just forms a pattern, you know. So like obviously, like the buffalo, that's maladaptive, right? Like it's not a good idea for them all to go running off the cliff.
Probably not.
Right, but. What we're saying is like, so in terms of the human body, rather than the brain controlling what all these different, so look at this, right? Your body has around 200 mobile joints. You've got around 550 different degrees of freedom. So like, think of like your elbow can flex and extend. It can also supinate and pronate, right? So that's 2 degrees of freedom. We've got 550 different degrees of freedom. And approximately 400,000 different motor units. So a motor unit is like a neuron and the muscle fibers that it innervates. So like imagine you're trying to control a video game character. You know, you're trying to get the guy to move around, right? Imagine you're trying to get this guy to move around and do stuff, but you've got 400,000 buttons to control 550 different moving parts, right? Like that's an intractable problem. That's too tough, right? So that's why we're saying like the traditional model doesn't really work, where we have the brain just controlling all those different pieces. It's too much complexity. So rather, we think it's self-organization of all of those different pieces. They can group up, work together, and then there's different kind of information and properties stored at the properties of the muscles and the tendons and everything. And again, like, that can form skilled behavior or like unskilled behavior, right? Like if you're a baby, you're not like walking that great yet, but we still think it's self-organization that's driving, that is like the fundamental mode of coordination rather than the brain is telling you what to do. Like how good you actually are at the thing is kind of like a separate like question, Does that make sense?
Well, what are we talking about?
So like
the traditional mode of teaching, or are we just talking
we're talking about like how movement happens. So like you pick up you've got the cup right now and then you're gonna drink, right? Like there's a lot of
throw it that way just to be a jerk. Yeah. What? I didn't know what happened. This just happened.
I mean, you might drink from the cup, and now it's like, but like as you do that or any other action, there's a lot of different things happening, right? Like as you drink, we think it's like pretty simple because we're good at it. But like as you drink, there's a neck flexion, right? There's a elbow flexion. There's shoulder adduction. Like there's all these different parts that go into it, right? And then think of like all the different things that happen with like the jaw, the tongue, like swallowing, all these different pieces. And so like self-organization would be the driving process of how that coordination can actually happen. Yeah?
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you're with me, yeah?
I'm with you. Where is this going, though? Because how does this pertain to learning?
I will get to that. Yeah, but this part makes sense?
Yeah. Lots of things make a thing happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I like your explanations.
Shit makes a thing
Lots-
happen.
Lots of things make a thing happen, and lots of things interact to make a thing happen. If I could add one word there.
So getting
Yeah?
the coffee from there to here or to here took a lot of sadness and driving and stress. Then there was a bunch of motor functions and adductions to get in belly.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can think of it as like they're all working together to achieve that goal.
Okay, I'm fighting some of them.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Great.
I feel like the theme song to Spider-Man is winding down, so if you have a child come in here like, adduction, give it a minute. I have to go and put on another. Do you know how to... Can you push the button yourself? Proprioception of the adduction. There's like 4,000 buttons, though, so fucking figure it out. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ecologically go in the room and show him how to push the button with my hand. I'm going to take my hand, I'm going to guide his finger to the button, and he's going to learn something. No! He just proved you right. He fucked around and he found out and he did it himself. Jesus, he's a fucking...
That's hilarious.
God damn it. We should just do away with belts all entirely. He just went in there and won the Mundials of turning the TV on.
We just got a
a
new puppy, and it's like the...
Daddy's in the middle of doing something. Can you sit here with me? This is just as fun as Spider-Man.
Yeah, we're having a lot of fun over here.
All right.
Probably too much more fun than Spider-Man, really.
It's way better than Spider-Man. All right, where were we? A lot of words about moving.
Self-organization, we kind of got that. Different things interact to make stuff happen.
Got it.
I might actually use some of your explanations for this. Like, this is really good to like make it very clear.
If there's one thing I'm good at, I'm being crystal fucking clear at all times. So that's the only nice messages I get on the internet. Is like, wow, that made sense. I'm like, I know it made sense. That's my job. My literal job is to not have you have to think for yourself. I'm gonna try and explain it to you so you get it, and then it works faster. I'm coaching you towards something.
That was something I always liked about your videos. Actually, you are clearly very good at that.
Thank you.
Like that's like a big part of like being a teacher. How do you make things clear? So yeah, I value that as well.
It's a pain in the ass to acquire the knowledge, and then it's even worse trying to share the knowledge because you got to share it in so many different ways to a crowd. And then if you do it only visually and only audibly, you'll have people on the internet be like, fuck that guy. Because you're not actually interacting with the person. You don't know the build up to teaching that thing. There's no emotional input whatsoever. You don't physically feel it. It's like a huge gap between internet and human where they just yell into the void like, this is my opinion. And then you'll have some jackass, and there's always a jackass that goes like, well, back when I did it. Like everyone takes what you did and goes, but this is me talking about what you were doing. Like film your own fucking video, jackass. I'm just trying to share how easy this can be. You can make this easier. You can make it very clear, very precise. This equals this equals this. Yeah, but no, lean left. Oh, he's right. So it gets lost in translation.
Yeah.
Anyways, the coffee just kicked in. I'm happy.
There we go.
Back to big fucking words that I will whittle down to like 3 words, and the viewers are gonna go, "Fuck, he's right."
When I'm gonna start using some of these phrases, and every time you're gonna know it came from you because it's gonna be clear. It's gonna be clearly your wording.
You have my full permission to swear and tell dick jokes to the internet. Go get them.
Different things interact.
Different things, they interact. Done. Lots of stuff makes one thing.
Talk done.
That's my TED Talk. Lots of stuff becomes
There
one
we go.
fucking thing. Butterfly.
So, self-organization is like kind of the really complex one. So next we have information movement coupling. So it's just the idea that we're not planning and predicting our movements and like, predicting what sort of sensory error might happen or sensory outcomes. Basically, we are continuously controlling our movement in relation to the information we're receiving from our environment or from our relationship with the environment.
Mm-hmm.
Sound good?
Sure.
Do you want to give me the Burns version? I think we could get like I like the. Okay, so we coordinate our movements continuously in response to the information we're receiving from our environment. And like yeah.
My movements are dictated by the environment. So describe environment. Are we still talking about jujitsu?
Like any environment, right? So like, I've got my phone. I can pick up the phone. You could pick up the coffee cup, right? I could pick up the water bottle. And rather than me planning, here's how I'm going to pick up the water bottle, or recalling a motor program of here's how I pick up water bottles, it's a continuous interaction of like, okay, the cup is here. I see it. I'm perceiving an affordance, right? The direct perception to pick it up.
Okay,
So-
okay, I disagree with this one. So this is, so I should be smart enough to know how to pick up my coffee cup. I picked it up, but it's
Yeah.
pretty fucking dumb. That didn't really work out for me. That feels better. Do you know how many classes I've taught where I've had to physically take a human's hand and go, does that feel better? Yeah, that feels better, coach. You could literally do that 4,000 times and think you're a genius that's reinvented something. Or you could have a coach that goes, probably put it like that, Tagger. And they just went, oh, okay, that does feel better. So I'm assuming, making an ass out of you and me, I'm assuming that you don't think when you do things. Another version of fuck around and find out. So when I don't think when I do things, sometimes it works good, but maybe it could work better. So my job, technically, would be to show you a more efficient way of fucking around and finding out.
Yeah. So like we're, so like there's some people that really take this to the extreme.
What the fuck they do? Yes, there's a lot.
They take ecological dynamics to the extreme, right? And they say like self-organization, you're going to interrupt the student's process of figuring out how to learn a move when you give them feedback. So don't give them feedback, right? And actually, that's just a really extreme view that isn't consistent with the research at all. Like the research is pretty clear. So for really simple tasks,
Tell me, okay, so please explain the research as to letting somebody kind of figure something out for themselves. Is this like a timeline thing towards victory? Like, what is the end goal?
what I'm talking about now is, this is kind of an aside. What I'm talking about now is the research on feedback, right? You're learning a motor skill. You're learning how to pick up a coffee cup, and then how effective is it if I tell you like, hey, like, why don't you flip that head the other way, Tiger? And so the research suggests basically like, if it's a really simple task and maybe you're kind of skilled, there are times where giving feedback can be counterproductive, like where it can slow people down. But in general, so like, when we're talking for simple tasks, we're talking like you're pressing numbers on a keyboard, like very, very like closed skill sort of things, right? Not a dynamic environment, not a huge amount of like different joint movements. Again, pressing keys on a keyboard. When it comes to complex tasks, the research is very clear. Feedback is helpful, So other like more like extreme people might argue differently with you, but as far as the effect of feedback, we are very much on the same page,
Yeah.
Like, if you and I see the student picking up the thing, sideways, we're going to say, like, maybe there's differences in, like, I might give feedback a little less than you, but, pretty much all the time, I think we're both going to say, hey, like, holding it this way might be more effective. Try it, see how it feels, right?
It's a
And the
much more
research,
polite version.
say again?
It's a much more polite version. Like, you're doing great. You're doing great. Maybe try it like this. Good job. Good
There's
job.
some research on like if you tell them like you have to do it like this, and this will get a little more contentious between us, but there's some research on if you tell them you have to do it a certain way, then it's less like autonomy supportive language, right? So
explain autonomy supportive language now. So now you got Spider-Man, plus you got Bandsaw, and you got a Jackass. This is going great for you. Okay, so autonomy supportive language is a fancy way of saying think for yourself.
yeah, like for instance, it comes like to the most modern theory of like motivation is self-determination theory, which frankly I don't love. I think we could do a lot better as far as like it's a theory. So basically the idea is motivation is kind of controlled by, let me see if I can get it off the top of my head. It's like relatedness, competence, and autonomy, I believe. Relatedness, competence, autonomy. And so basically, let me double check that real quick so I don't fuck that up.
Pull that shit up, Jamie.
Yeah. I nailed it. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness. Yeah. So basically, their thing is to help people stay motivated. You want them to have those three things. You want them to feel like they're good at what they're doing. You want them to have like relatedness. You want them to feel like they fit in and they're, kind of with their peers. And then you want them to have autonomy. So you want them to feel like, for instance, like when they come into work, you want them to feel like they have control over like what work they do and that they can make choices rather than, everything is told for like, you have to do it like this, right? Like the theory goes that if you decrease any of those things, you're decreasing their like motivation. That's the theory. Again, I think we can do better, but that's the state of the art for motivation right now. And optimal theory is much better, in my opinion. But so they talk about it's optimizing performance through intrinsic motivation and attention for learning. Basically, the theory is the more you increase focus on task goal, the better people perform, the better people learn. And sorry, I know I'm like overwhelming your brain probably with different other things, but
yeah, there's a few irons in the fire right now. Just thinking about the idea of motivating the student. So the idea of the student coming in and being shown something and being told why it works and how it works clearly without any rigmarole. Literally, put hand here. This works like this because of this. You don't get that a lot. You get put hand here.
Yeah.
And then move on to the next.
Right.
So I feel like teaching could be better, period. You could put a little bit more effort into teaching the art of jiu-jitsu, not you. In general, a lot of people could put a lot more effort instead of just showing a thing and going, go do the thing. Because I said so, and because the guy on the wall said so. You do the thing. So I hear where the culty side is coming from, right? As opposed to, well, fuck all of that. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to do this instead. And I'm going to fuck around and find out. And now I'm upside down, and 20 years from now, it hurts, and maybe I should have done that thing, but fuck that guy. Do you get what I mean? That's what I'm hearing. Because, all right, so if I do a me, and I take everything that you said, I literally said last night in the class, I said, less of instructor, think of it as a pseudo father figure. I am like a dad saying, don't touch the hot pan. Probably don't touch the hot pan. Go get a 401k. Go get a 401k. I'm just giving you slight advice. If you want to go and get a fucking dragon tattooed on your neck and do cocaine, do it. You're a fucking adult and you can go and do all that shit. But then when you come back to me and go like, oh man, cocaine's over. I really wish I did that 401k. How have you been, Dad? Every fucking time. So I am trying to cut that chunk of fucking cocaine and neck tattoo out and get you from point A to point B a little bit faster. That's what I think a coach should do, not, I don't know, you could try some cocaine. See how it goes. Maybe steps to your position.
Yeah.
Photosynthesis.
Yeah.
Who knows?
So,
Maybe come up with some cool guard out of it. I don't fucking know, but Jesus Christ. There you go. A to B. You can touch the hot pan if you want to. I believe in you, and you have autonomy. You're an adult, and I'm proud of you. See what I did? I gave them autonomy. They could do whatever they want, and I made them feel good about it.
yeah.
Touch the hot pan.
It's probably a good idea to not touch the hot pan. Now they have they can still touch it, right? Like, you're supporting their autonomy.
I want to know about the statistics because, like, what we're doing is we're trying to. So, what version of teaching is better? First off, like, there's a chunk on my side that are terrible at teaching. They just have this content. It's like, I'm doing it because they told me to do it, and then we're upside down, and then we're doing nothing about this. And then there's a whole nother world now where people are just like, no, we do it like this because fuck them. Cool. Both sides are slightly retarded. We got to meet in the middle. That's why I'm here. So the annoying thing about this is that I think you can teach jiu-jitsu. And I think you can also fuck around and find out. I think the staggering numbers of fuck around and find out guys are the physically gifted ones, the ones that are like they're prone towards this. They're like, okay, maybe they're athletes. Did you know that some people are more athletic than others? Because some are. Meanwhile, there's a whole chunk of people over here that I want to teach how to defend themselves, not how to play a sport. Because when you go out there and you throw that ball really fucking fast, really fucking good, because you were just an athlete and you just picked it up, you know? You saw that fish go to the right and you're like, I could go to the right. And then you go to the right really good and they're like, hey, he's a champion. What about the not champions? What about the guys like me that like are not a fucking champion? No, I want someone to explain why it works and I want to do it safely. I don't want to fuck around and find out and then kind of fall off the tree and then, well, at least he gave me some like thumbs up and said, you're doing great thinking for yourself touching that hot pan. Just fucking tell me not to touch a hot pan, coach. So I'm torn. I want to pretend to be smart just as much as the next guy, but I also want to do my job goddamn properly because no one did it for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, and I'm totally with you. I think we're really pretty much on the same page about feedback, you know?
Okay. When it comes to the statistics and the feedback, is it geared towards like performance of athletes as opposed to students' happiness? What are we doing?
You'd have to look into that a little more deeply. I focused a little more on the like external focus of attention, and the expectancies research was a little more interesting to me. And I read this paper like many years ago, but as far as I know, they looked at it in pretty widespread of like a few different, you know, basically. So the theory is that autonomy supportive language increases our focus on task goal. And then through our increased focus on, like you're more focused, right? Because you're more focused, you learn better and you perform better. That's the theory. The research shows when we use autonomy supportive language, we can compare autonomy supportive language and then like not autonomy restrictive language, let's say. And then the people with the autonomy supportive language perform and learn better.
Can I have an example of autonomy supportive language?
So like a basic thing, you know, if you're teaching a technique, you could say, you know, say you've got a good technique, right? Here's how you do a cross-collar choke. And again, this research, this paper is actually based in kind of traditional information processing models. So this is not actually like the way, well, we'll get to like how we would actually teach with ecological dynamics. But so you could say, here's how you do a cross-collar choke. Here's how, you know, the late great Hickson Gracie taught me, and hence
God, he's not dead.
the great and continuing great. I forget that late means you're dead.
Yeah.
You know what I meant. You know, he's
I know.
anyway.
Yeah, really great.
The continuing still alive legend. You know, this is how he taught it, and hence this is the way it has to be done, right? You have to do it like this, right? Because it's good technique. You know, you have reason to say, like, that's how it has to be done, right? Or you can teach the exact same technique and you say, this is probably a really good way to do it. That's autonomy. That'd be an example of autonomy supportive language.
Okay, so exactly how I teach. Okay, so that's how
Yeah.
I teach. I don't tell them. I never tell anyone, this is how you do this. I show them why you do this. I'm very clear. Because let's say, for lack of a better submission to dictate, the cross-collar choke would involve your hands being like this. And imagine I reach really deep and it's behind your neck. Where are your carotid arteries? They're over there. So I should probably put it here. All right. So now that's where your neck is. How do I do the choke? Do I do it like that? No, maybe we could start to do that because that's where the neck is. Okay. So if I do this, that's the fucking opposite of doing that. So probably do what I tell you. Then we add on to that. So that's how I'm teaching. I might do it with a dick joke or two, but I am not saying you do it because dad said to do this. I would say, here's a hot pan that the late great whoever suggested that we don't fuck around and find out with. Here's a very efficient answer, and if you come up with a more efficient answer, I would love to hear it. So I'm always open to the interpretation. I feel like the interpretation of a move comes from time in the field, right? So sparring. But if you send a student out there and just go, probably choke that guy. How? I don't know. Find out.
Yeah,
I don't
sure.
feel like helping anyone.
Yeah.
I feel like if you describe how to do something and you genuinely tell them, you don't say, like, well, that guy said to do it. You show them why it works. Show them why it works and show them the literal opposite of why it wouldn't work. And then say, I'm pretty sure A plus B equals fucking C. And if I'm wrong, fix me. God fix me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's get back to this. Let's get back to the set, because so we've got just one remaining principle of the 6 of ecological dynamics, and then the 4 of how we apply it, which are a lot easier. So I think we can rocket through those, and then we can come back to like, okay, like, how should we teach, right? Because again, we're not suggesting like, you know, the ecological approach is not suggesting, yeah, just like let them spar. It's not like coaches aren't needed, you know, go hang out in the other room while they spar for every class.
See,
and only spar.
I need to understand what a task-based game is. So it's like just a restraint.
We'll get to it. Yeah. So, okay. So easy stuff, right? So our next principle is repetition without repetition or functional variability. So this comes from a famous study by a Russian scientist, Nikolai Bernstein, in like the early 90s. He started looking at skilled expert blacksmiths versus novice blacksmiths. And so you might think, like intuitively,
I know this story.
Yeah.
I listened to a whole bunch of ecological stuff trying to
Okay.
build up to swinging the fucking anvil. Yeah, you got this.
You want to give me the...
For the listeners, it's you can swing the anvil and no one's going to swing it the same way, but they're still swinging an anvil.
Yeah,
Or swing
and
a hammer on an anvil.
but
But
it's every time you swing it is different.
yeah.
The experts actually, they did more accurate hammer strikes through more variability of their individual joint movements that work together,
Okay.
right? So
I'll
for
make
the
it really short. I'll do it, Chris. Aim for perfection, you land around excellence.
No, actually, no.
No.
So what we're saying is, I mean, what is perfection, right?
Exactly.
So for
That's why
instance-
you land around excellence.
Yeah, I guess it's like, that's kind of like just a different direction of an idea then. So for instance, if we say it's not that the experts were trying to do the one perfect thing and then they were failing. That's not at least how we conceptualize that.
Okay.
And then they were still doing good. How we conceptualize it is like, that kind of is perfection, to the extent that perfection exists, is actually not just doing the one hammer strike exactly the same way every time, where like you have the one perfect hammer strike and then you just accurately recreate it every time. Actually, it's like there's a lot of variability in what the shoulder does every time and what the elbow does every time and what the wrist does every time, but they all work together to, in those different strikes, still get an accurate functional goal, right? So like, example, you know, if we apply it to jiu-jitsu, the example would be, if we were to map it, if we studied it, it could come out different, but if it came out the same, the example would be, if we look at a expert cross-collar choke that actually, and we compare it to beginners, they've got a little bit more variability with how they do, you know, the wrist movement, how they do the elbow movement, how they do the crunch. But that variability all works together so that every time they're getting the submission, rather than the beginner that like, they kind of try to do it all, you know, and they're just failing every time, right? Does that make sense?
No. So the hammer hitting the anvil is a movement. That movement can be replicated, but when it's replicated in nuances. So it doesn't matter if it looks the same. It's not the same. It's never the same, and everyone's going to be a little bit different when they do it, right? But they're still aiming to hit that anvil. So let's pretend hitting the anvil is perfection. I'm going to aim for hitting an anvil. Now, no matter how I hit that anvil, as long as I hit that anvil, I did good. Perfection. So you aim for perfection. You're never going to get it. But you're going to land around excellence if you hit the fucking anvil, right?
I guess where it could be a little different, like, and it may not, you may, like, we're already on the same page, is what it sounds like you might be saying that is different from what we're saying, is there an ideal hammer strike that
Okay.
when we vary from it,
Is there...
it's no longer ideal?
Okay.
right?
All right.
Is that what you're saying? I'm not even.
No, I just don't want you to fucking hit the ground.
Well, yeah. I mean, we obviously we both agree, right?
Yeah, so just don't miss the fucking anvil. So if I tell you to do a cross collar choke and you go like this, I think you miss the anvil, you know? But if you do the cross collar choke and you go like that, it's good, but it could be better. Here, do it again and let me tune that up a little bit because I want to be a bit more like a mechanic than a coach. Like your car runs. Let me tighten up a couple screws, see if it doesn't make that weird clunky noise when you're doing shit. Right? So I understand the idea, but I just don't quite understand the metaphor in use. Because when ecological cats are talking about that, what is the metaphor for? Why are they trying to explain through this?
Excellent question. Basically, it's suggesting that there is no one ideal technique. Like, actually, it's kind of like a collection. Like if we, for instance, like we could do a biomechanical analysis, especially like an individual person. If we were to look at the expert, right? The expert that's doing the hammer strikes, each time they're doing the strike a little different though, right?
Yeah.
But we could look at all of those hammer strikes and maybe we do a biomechanical analysis and we say, actually, like that hammer strike, or actually if we change that hammer strike a little bit in this way, this one is perfect, right? The skilled movement doesn't happen through accurately recreating that perfect pattern. It happens through having functional variability to recreate. Like, imagine we're trying to hit nails, right? That's what the original studies were about. Imagine you hit that nail like dead center, like perfect place, right? Does it really matter if like your wrist angle was a little different and like the elbow angle was a little different? If we efficiently and effectively hit that hammer right at the perfect spot. Yeah?
Okay, so the idea of variability, being open to variables. I kind of grasp onto that. So the idea, as a metaphor, I feel like this is poor for what we're doing because the variables for me are more about self-preservation. So let's say if I hit that nail and I use my wrist a little bit like that, and then I end up pulling out a muscle in my wrist because I did it, but I hit the fuck out of that nail, didn't I? So that would be a good repetition, but at what cost? Right?
Well,
so
I mean, we could call that a bad repetition, right? That's not a good outcome.
Yeah. So I feel like it's just semantics at this point. Like we're hitting the nail, but maybe we could do it better where it doesn't hurt us. Maybe we could do it better where it doesn't endanger the people around us. Does that make sense?
Let's say you hit the nail perfectly and you don't get injured. And then as another thing, for low load movements, these biomechanical analyses really do not correlate with injury risk. We don't see correlation between like how you move and like what your posture is and actual injury risk and pain until we have the sort of loads where you're actually breaking tissues. So for instance, like, are you familiar with like knee valgus? If your knee caves in, knee valgus is just a name for like if your knees buckle to the inside, like at all.
Well, that's happened to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is something that a lot of weightlifting coaches, biomechanics analysis, like there's a lot of research on valgus knee pressure, and a lot of people are really like, think in terms of like Olympic weightlifting and injury risk prevention, movement screens. It's one that like a lot of people latch onto. They're like valgus knees, like you should never have valgus knees, right? If you squat, yeah, your knee should always be out over the toes, right? Or outside the toes.
Yeah.
But you actually don't see a correlation between, when you actually study it, you don't see a correlation between valgus knees and injury risk unless we're doing things like jumping off buildings, right? You jump off a building, the load is high enough, like you can actually rip your ACL, right? And so hence, now we're playing, the stakes are high enough that now it matters at a biomechanical level. Yeah. But if we're talking about like, I'm just standing here, and I'm here or I'm there or like any, weird posture, we don't see any correlation between those sort of positions or any sort of like biomechanical analysis that we would say like, these are, this optimal wrist position, your wrist should be in neutral, all your joints should be in neutral all the time, right? We don't see any correlation of that with injury risk.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, I get that.
So that's just kind of related, right? So yeah, basically the idea is variability is actually, it's not an error, it's functional. In skilled movement, at least. Yeah?
Okay.
So like what we would say, and we could study this. So if you did a cross-collar choke, again, like this is actually a very complex open skill, but you're an expert. So what we would suggest, this as an analog, is if you were to do a cross-collar choke on someone, and if we actually really looked deeply at how you're doing it, we would actually see a lot of variability in how you're doing it. Like all your wrists would work together with your elbows and your shoulders. Like each thing would do a little bit different of a thing, so that in a different environment, or even in the same environment, like with the blacksmiths, you would recreate that optimal outcome of getting a submission without like getting injured or having pain in many different ways. Rather than the idea that actually you're doing the exact same thing every time.
Okay, so you're doing something vaguely the same.
Yeah. And you're having, the joints working together. They're figuring, because they're self-organizing, right? So they're self-organizing, like, how do we still achieve the goal? Your wrist is over here this time, and this one's over there, and then they're still like, how do we get that right to that goal optimally?
I'm still sticking with the first metaphor. Aim for perfection, land around excellence. The perfection is to hit the fucking anvil. That's it. So The perfection is to put your hands in the collar. Now it could be a little bit better. There we go. We're getting better. So yeah, no, I get it.
Well, yeah. But so for that, right? Think of like, let's imagine that like that is, we could see that, right? That this is like the perfect end position. Then what we're talking about is actually how you got to that end position is a little different each time.
Okay, sure.
Cool. So now we've got so that's all the key principles of ecological dynamics. So direct perception, direct learning, self-organization, performer-environment symmetry, information movement coupling, and functional variability. That's all 6.
It's all 6.
So now we get to like the functional part. So based on that understanding, what should we do? How should we teach? Well, we use the constraints-led approach, right? We use our first principle is session intention. So for every session, coaches should have an intention. The idea is for a session, you have people come in for a class. You should have an intention of what you want to work on in the class, and your athletes should share that intention. That like today we're going to work on close guard. And you want your students to like also understand and also like agree that like, okay, today we're going to work on close guard, right?
So we're gonna name the position that we'll be sparring in. That whole position.
Whatever. Again, like I probably wouldn't do it that way, but like just as an example, like, we want to have an intention of what we're doing, and I'm sure you already do that, right?
Yeah. No, I have to explain what a guard is to people because nobody knows what it is anymore. They just say the word guard like it's we're going to do cantaloupe. Why are you in a guard and what is a guard for? Where did you start that ended you in a guard? The students understand that we're going to be doing a thing in a thing. Got it.
And they're trying to, we agree that we're trying to do it, right? You don't want, if you're trying to work on closed guard, you don't want the students like their intention is, yeah, they want to do exactly.
Gotcha. I'm with you.
Okay. So next one, let's go constrain to afford. This one, so the idea is it's a constraints-led approach, right? We're manipulating the interacting constraints of the individual, the task, and the environment, right? We think movement behavior emerges from those interacting constraints. What are, your constraints? Chris, I don't know how many years old, whatever you weigh, your individual, like, how strong your arms are, how long your legs are, like all those different things. Like we could think of those as constraints of like what you can do and what you cannot do. Those are individual constraints.
Yes. The constraints acting on you, the individual.
The constraints acting on you, the individual, right? How tired are you in a given day? How stressed or what's your emotional state, right? Those are individual constraints. Environmental constraints, what are we on mats? Are we on grass? Are we on asphalt? I just did a video with a friend last weekend. We did jiu-jitsu on concrete. So, the environmental constraints, right? Are we in a IBJJF competition, right? And so is there an audience, right? And then the tasks. The task interacts with, who you are and what the environment is and what you're going to try to do, right? Give you a different task, you're going to try to do a different thing. So we can think of like movement behavior emerges from those. So with the constraints-led approach, we're trying to manipulate those constraints to get different behavior to emerge. And so people can learn, right? Okay. So what a lot of people do when they first start using the constraints-led approach, they're thinking in terms of moves still. So like, I want people to learn the cross-collar choke. Here's your task is you're going to start in closed guard, and the only way you can win is you get a cross-collar choke. The problem is with that, and for instance, maybe bottom player, you win by getting a cross-collar choke, nothing else. Top player, you can't win. Like, try to just not get choked, right? By doing that, we remove all the different things that could be happening, right? So like top player isn't trying to stand up. They're not trying to break the guard. Maybe they could do some sort of smash pass. They could potentially open the guard without standing up. They're not trying to do that. They could potentially, if the bottom player is very unskilled, they could still submit the bottom player. They're not trying to do that, right? Not even attempting, no matter how unskilled the bottom player is. So the bottom player doesn't get any opportunity to perceive like any of those things, any of the information that specifies if doing those things are bad or good.
That's something. All right. So if I hand my son the remote and he mashes fucking buttons, nothing happens for a long time. Then eventually he mashes the right button. Cool. Turned it on. He keeps doing that for, 3-4 years until he figures out which button is the exact fucking button. And I said 3 or 4 years and I meant it. It's going to take a long time to figure out which button is the exact button for the job. That's a lot of self-teaching. Then eventually, he figures it out. And the entire time, I keep telling him, you're doing a really good job. Congratulations. Now, his learning curve is better because I'm letting him think that he's teaching himself because I handed him a remote and said, push buttons until you're a genius. Now, this goes full circle for me, where it could have just been, hey, Dad, can you show me how to use the remote? And no one wants to say, hey, Dad, can you show me how to do something? Because they feel better when they've done it for themselves. So I feel like, I do want to know more. I feel like this is where a lot of this is coming from for a lot of people. They don't want to say, hey, Dad, can you show me how to use the remote? They want to say, no, I use the constraint-led approach to prove to myself that I can do this, 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 and this under this context, and this, 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 and this. And then, the dad says, like, you did good, son.
Okay, so
I'm not catching it.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If I do again, constraint forward is saying that closed guard, cross-collar choke task is not the best way to do things. Yeah. But, again, imagine you show the cross-collar choke before the task. Here's a cross-collar choke. You can still do all the instruction there. You say, here, you're going to put this hand here, you're going to put that hand here, you're going to do the choke like this, you can turn your wrist this way. Okay, now play the game. Now, instead of drilling it, though, now play the game with live resistance. Now you get to attune to that information. And then, again, you could do that, right? So constraint to forward is saying we don't want to constrain to restrict. We want to set up the task where there's still all of the information, like the whole game is still present in the thing we're doing, right? So, for instance, like think of the remote example you gave. If you give the son your remote, it's a very simple like motor skill. That would be one difference where you just kind of have to find the button, right? But there's a lot of different buttons to press, and this is where it gets similar. And so rather than just like, okay, have everyone just roll and figure it out, you say, hey, son, pressing one of these 3 buttons on the top here is going to like turn on the TV. Like you can try it, but like try to turn on the TV, but like look at the top and actually try to do it, but this one on the top right is the power button.
It's so nefarious. You're making them think that they're thinking for themselves now.
I mean, they still are, but you're still giving them information, right?
Okay, I get it. So now that comes back to that the full thing about what was the term where you make them feel good about doing things?
Autonomy. I mean,
Yeah, that
autonomy supportive language.
Autonomy supportive language. Don't touch all of that. There's 3 things that you could touch, and one of them might work. Like, it's like neuro-linguistic programming. You know what I mean? Like, I understand it, but it's duplicitous.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I think this is a Western thing. I think Westerners just don't like being told what to fucking do. It's like, touch that button and it works. Like, well, I'm going to touch the other 2 because fuck you. I feel like that's where all this is stemming from. And it's become a thing where it has to be like, there doesn't have to be a division in the road where telling somebody what a good thing is and explaining why it's good. I don't think that should be shit upon. But I think, honestly, coaching has become so bad in what we do because what we do is so, oh God, it's not explained. Like, there's this huge delineation between jiu-jitsu that was originally for self-defense and now it's jiu-jitsu for a game. And no one is acknowledging that there's a separation, and that separation has a lot to do with distance management, and that's a whole nother podcast, and I'm here to do this thing. I think that it got so mixed up where it's just people trying to show moves all the time to keep people's attention. Here's a move. Here's another move. Let's do this. Let's do that. I love the idea that you guys are basically doing positional sparring with constraints, because imagine I had to do closed guard triangles, but I don't get a hand. I have to put one hand in my belt. Because that's what I did. I had to do... It's the same shit. It's just bigger words. And every time somebody says it's just positional sparring, somebody else gets mad. If we just started calling positional sparring constraint-led approaches, then we can all be friends. So there's no real difference. We're all trying to achieve the same goals with this. I like the idea of this. I also don't like the duplicity of it. It's like a fake plastic plant in an academy. Like, it's there, but it's fake and it's plastic. It's like neuro-linguistic programming. Like, it's there, but you didn't need to change the cadence of your voice to get my attention. I could have wanted to take that information in. There's a lot of layers to this right now for me. I'm just saying, we should probably start getting along a little bit more about this, because I like these ideas. I like these ideas a lot, but I don't personally see the need to give them... Like, take away 20 options and give them 3 and then make them pretend that they're fucking smart. Dude, just eat some pie. You see, like, shut up, dude, you're not smart. Here's the smart answer. If you find a smarter one, come and hit me with it. I don't know, man.
So
this is now feeling like neuro-linguistic programming to me.
Sure. That's fair. But so here's the thing. 2 kind of big things. One, you could say the CLA is just using TAS, right? And you could say, like, situational sparring is using TAS. So those are the same. There's a huge difference in the mindset and the underlying stuff of understanding what movement is, how it's coordinated, and, like, those 6 principles that we got through, where even if that was the same, and even if we don't understand the 4 things of how to use a constraints-led approach, or we just say situational stuff, we're going to do things totally differently if I have an understanding of ecological dynamics and I'm running tasks and someone else has I've actually talked with some people that, you know, they say they're using the ecological approach, but then actually, like, when we were talking about it, actually they're just using tasks, but they actually still think that movement patterns exist. And so they're using tasks to guide people to doing movement, like to do the technique. When that's actually a totally different thing based on a totally different theory, that they're incompatible, you know? So maybe that hopefully helps you feel it. Like, that's why we're saying it's different, and maybe it's not such a, like, duplicitous thing that...
No, okay,
Yeah.
I get it. I just don't trust you.
No, for sure.
I love the idea of having the students fuck around and find out, because that's a real thing. But if I don't give them, like, training wheels to begin with and tell them what their goals are, again, that's something that got lost on my side of the tracks, that people are just like, they're showing a move and it's like, all right, you do 12 versions, he does 12, and then you guys spar. There's just bad instruction worldwide. There's some bad fucking instructors that just exist because they won a competition one time. Or maybe they just bought a place. Maybe this is their wonderful hobby and it's a vanity project. There's some just shitty people out there trying to share knowledge. What I'm curious about, and I keep coming back to it, is the statistics. I think they're separated heavily because of the athleticism. The words I tried to get out before I could think. Athleticism. So I think the idea of this way of learning is catering more towards the athletically inclined, and they're scoring fucking goals with it, right? I don't think I can take this way of teaching and put like a 65-kilo woman in, like, okay, find out. Like, I keep finding out, but I keep finding out that I'm wrong. Okay, so we need to have a little bit of content on this, and this is what you should be focusing on. I feel that teaching should be better. I feel like you guys are cornering the market when it comes to teaching athletes how to compete properly, and I respect that. I think that's a good way of approaching it. And if athletes want to pretend that they're smart while they're doing things, good for them. The other end of this spectrum, I want to make sure that I'm clearly and concisely explaining why we're doing a thing and giving the best answer possible before moving on to the thing that I need to teach next. So I don't know. I feel like it's there's a term for it. It's progressive learning. I prefer progressive learning over all other versions that I've been taught. And I know there's a term for something that I do. I can't remember it.
Progressive drilling? Is that? No.
I am curious about drilling. So if I show you a movement and you just look at it and I say, okay, replicate that movement under duress. And then they go, can I see that movement again? Can I try doing that movement? And then, okay, can I do that again? Does that count as drilling? Because if you do something repetitively before you go out and do it live, that's drilling, right? You should physically know where to put your hands before you start to try and put your hands in a place. You should physically know that that person wants you to pick up the hammer and hit that nail. So here, I want you to pick up that hammer like this, and I want you to hit that nail like this. You want to try that a couple times? Hey, good work. Okay, now just fuck around and find out. I feel like that's drilling. I feel like you're going to drill whether you like it or not. I think this is just semantics now. So if people want to go at me when I say, Mike, you have to learn how to do a thing before you can go and do a thing. That's just people wanting to argue, right?
No, yeah, I legitimately disagree.
Okay.
So there's a lot of different threads that I want to, you raise a lot of important kind of issues,
Yeah.
I'm going to try to keep track of all of them. One, maybe we can throw in really quick. The research on the CLA is right now in many different sports. It's in novices, beginners, experts, and of course, as most research is kind of with intermediates. But the CLA is doing better across the board. So at least from an empirical point of view, it doesn't at all seem like the CLA works better for experts, but then the beginners are getting left behind.
Okay,
actually,
so aren't getting left behind.
No. Actually, I feel it's the functionally for jiu-jitsu, it's the complete opposite. The experts, the people that are already competing a lot, if you go to a regular like competition class at any gym, there's going to be a lot more sparring. There's a lot more hard work. There's a lot more situational sparring. That's a lot more consistent with our ideas of how skill is actually developed. And so we believe that this is why those people are actually so good, right? Versus the beginner classes, that's where we get stuck in the, you have to learn how to do it. Now you have to drill. Now you have to do it repetitively with no resistance. And now you have those beginners and those less athletic people that on top of being less athletic and having no skill yet, also aren't getting any time to attune to what actually happens with resistance. And how do I actually do something when someone's fighting back? There's a lot of classes right now where, you have an hour class, you spend 45 minutes, 10 minutes warming up and 35 minutes drilling and then 15 minutes sparring and doing situationals at the end, right?
I gotta go off on another thread. Okay, so the way that I teach. All right, so how do I explain this one? Let's talk about under resistance. If I teach you a move, I teach it in a very specific way. I teach the mechanics of the movement and I show you why it works. Here's how it works and here's how it doesn't work. Fuck around and find out. Now, how do we make this happen? We don't make this happen. It's in the title, Gentle Art. Those two squiggly things didn't mean wrestle fuck. My job is not to force something to happen. That's weird. That's weird that I even say it and people get confused. I'm not supposed to be wrestling you and making submissions happen. I'm supposed to be controlling you, and I take the most efficient submission that you hand me. So I need the student to understand that when they push, they're feeding something. It's called uke and tore. It's a good guy, good bad guy. There's no version where I'm going to go, I'm doing a cross-collar choke whether you like it or not. Now, there's a version of me that does that because I'm fucking around with friends. But when you teach a student, you should teach them how they're being fed a move. I don't think that this is a good way for a student to learn, is when somebody completely resists the thing. So now, like, I'm going to have to make that thing happen. I got to find a way to make this happen. No, the person should tell you why it happens. Well, no, the teacher should tell you why it's happening and when it's happening. And then you refine the skills of receiving the submission, receiving the throw, receiving the sweep, instead of, I'm going to make that shit happen. Because it's as simple as push and pull. If I start to push in a direction, you'll push back. When you push back and you overdo it, that's the pull. So that's the gentle part of the art, is the give and the take, that little yin and yang, the martial of the art. Like, no, that's a poor metaphor. Martial is, no, wrong word. It's the art. It's the actual art of give and take, of gentle art. It's gentle because I didn't make it happen. I took it. You gently were stupid, right? I think that's what's not expressed enough anymore in this art. And it's more about, here's this thing that I want you to achieve. Go be a champion and go achieve it. And that's good in its own world. But if I tell a fucking 65-kilo girl to go and make that thing happen, and the motherfucker's like 85 kilos and a dude, it's probably not going to fucking happen, Tiger. Because when I say jujitsu's for everyone, I mean jujitsu. I don't mean the moves that you picked and said these are jujitsu. Right? Because if I'm Steven Seagaling on the internet and like, oh my god, that would never work in real life, you're a fucking retard. If you bend the wrist, shit snaps. So if you put it in the wrong place, it snaps. It doesn't matter how big you are and how little that person is. That's what jujitsu becomes. It's the taking of something that you're giving. It's not the forcing down your throat of something that you were told to do. So I feel like that's a whole different thing that we have to talk about, because I don't think you should show them a move and say, all right, now there's going to be resistance. Then it's probably not that move. The gentle art would be doing the thing that was easier to fucking do. And again, the fact that I have to explain this makes me very upset, and I'm not upset with you, I'm upset with this, because this is the life that I chose.
So
Sorry.
actually, this is so great, because this actually brings us right exactly back to constrained to afford. So this is why, so like to your point, it's the Jew in jiu-jitsu, right? Gentle art.
That's just racist.
That's exactly why we want to constrain to afford, right? Because when we do that, when we give that task, you have to do the cross-collar choke. Well, now most of the things that the opponent is going to do aren't going to like optimally allow for the cross-collar choke, right?
Yeah.
They're going to do different things, and it's rare that that opportunity is going to be created, especially when they know that like that's the only thing you're going for, right?
Yeah.
So that's one thing. So, and then again, this different understanding of what's fundamentally happening we're not focused on how you do the movement pattern. For us, the techniques are a means to a goal, right? And even the way we show the technique is just, for us, it's a huge simplification of what actually happens. Because for us, when we show the step-by-step, here's how you do the cross-collar choke, we know that this is a simplification, and that actually every time you do it, they're going to resist somehow differently, and there's going to be an optimal way to respond to that that's efficient. Like you said, you're not forcing it, right? You're not forcing yourself to like I have to get this grip now. Oh, this grip but this grip was there.
I think I forced it a few times.
We've all forced it a few times right, at this point, you know?
I used to
But
play violin.
did you actually?
I tried. I was terrible.
For us, the techniques are a means to a goal, right? The cross collar choke is not, I don't actually want, if I show someone a cross collar choke, my goal is not even remotely for them to do the cross collar choke the way I showed them. It is to help them facilitate for them getting a submission. And however that happens.
But they're only allowed to do a cross collar choke.
Again, that's an example of a bad task. So a better task might be, so for beginners, what I like to do is we think that coordination happens through like assembly of coordinative synergies. That, remember those like 400,000 buttons? You can't press 400,000 buttons at the same time or organize them differently. So what can you do when you're a novice and you need to get something to work? Well, you group 20,000 buttons together and 20,000 there, 20,000 here. And now you've got, 18 buttons. And that's something you can work with, right? So for instance, when I teach, I like to really have beginners start with reduced degrees of freedom, right? So in a submission, say if you have someone start in spider web, right? They start in an armbar. There's very few things you can do, right? For both people. There's not so much you have to do when you already have the armbar. When you're already stuck in the armbar, well, you're pretty limited, right? Hence, there's not so much. A lot of those buttons are kind of useless now, right? Or you can't even use them. So you can search pretty specifically in areas that are more useful. So what I would say, okay, start on an armbar. Here's how an armbar works. We're going to extend the arm, right? We're going to use our hips as a wedge. We're going to cover the head so that they can't sit up, right? All the kind of typical things we could go through of like conceptually, like you were saying, the why behind things. That's important. That can be useful because that can help us educate our intention of what people are trying to do, right? If someone didn't know that we want to keep the head down, when you're doing an armbar, you want to keep their head down on the mat, well, then they might just let their partner's head just come up a whole bunch of times, right? And they have no idea that is going to make things harder. So, okay, we give some education of intention there. Here's what we're trying to do. And now, so you've got the armbar, you're attacking player, try to submit your partner any way you can. Again, I've already showed them, here's how an armbar works, but submit your partner any way you can. So we're leaving, you don't even have to do the armbar, right? We're leaving different, because you could do a triangle from there, right? You could do a triangle armbar. You could get into the legs. It depends what, like you were saying, the most efficient way to grapple is to go with what they're giving you, right? There's a lot of information that we can attune to that can tell us when, for instance, when we're doing an armbar that now, oh my God, they just gave me that leg. I could lock up a heel hook right now. Whatever we think about heel hooks for self-defense, right?
I love
it. It could be there, right? And defending player, I want you to escape. So stand up to neutral or anything better. And maybe gives them some ideas of like ripping the elbow out could be really good. Or again, getting your head off the floor could be really good, right? So we give them a general lay of the land. And then we say, okay, play the game with resistance. So we're not having people drill anything at all, right? I would pretty much, for most all of jiu-jitsu, I would never have people do those repetitions. It doesn't make sense anymore. And so instead, they're working with tasks, right? So that's a task they can attune. We're still allowing a lot of information that they can attune to. A lot of different affordances are present. Not so many degrees of freedom. So the perceptual motor landscape is smaller. You hand your son the remote with 500 buttons and you tell him fuck around and find out. Well, it's going to take him a long time to find the power button, right? Even if you say the power button's in the top right, but maybe he forgets and there's 500 buttons versus like with that armbar example, maybe there's only 50, and we still, hey, look over there. How can you extend the arm? If you extend their arm, they're going to tap. For novices, beginners, people that are lighter, less athletic, less strong. If we think of it as self-organizing, the body is intelligent. We learn, right? We clearly learn through experience. So, for instance, you could imagine you have enough teaching experience. I'm sure you've done games like that here and there, right? But if you have a beginner do that, so you have someone with zero experience, you put them, they're getting armbarred, and their goal is to escape. If they run that for 10 minutes, they're getting tap, 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 tap. They're going to really quickly start figuring out what things get them submitted quickly, right? They're going to figure that out really fast. It might take them a little longer to start figuring out, like, how do I escape? And of course, it's going to take them a while to figure out how can they escape optimally. But as far as like the gentle art, as far as finding efficiency, people aren't going to keep doing inefficient movements solutions for long, right? Like, for instance, if you put someone, imagine like the least efficient solution possible to an armbar is just a bicep curl, right? It's like, you're armbarring me, and I'm just like, I'm going to bicep curl my way out of this, right?
I don't know, man. Mr. Victoria fucking did that to me. Shit works.
Not that people can't do it, but like,
Oh, yeah.
it's the least probably, well, and that's interesting too, right? Because maybe if you're strong enough, maybe that at some point does become an efficient solution, but that's a totally different discussion.
I've got a knife. That's a pretty efficient solution. That's not the point.
So if they're trying to do that curl, right, and you tap them, no one's going to do that more than 3 or 4 times in a row,
Yeah.
right? They're going to, like, really quickly, they're going to figure out, that's a whole ton of work and it didn't work at all. So what can I do that's easier and I'm still going to get out, right? Versus, and now the other person, potentially with no experience, they're doing the armbar. They're going to have some success with it, depending on how, like, strong and athletic their partner is, right? They're going to have some success generally. And as they start to have that success, again, you've given them some idea what an armbar is. You wouldn't absolutely have to, but obviously it's a good idea. We both agree on that. They're going to start figuring out, oh yeah, this stuff's working. Or, oh, when I do that, when I take my legs off his head,
Show them this.
now they're smashing me, right? So we think that's fundamentally like fuck around and find out
This
is
is
how the
helping
body is.
Learn faster. Right?
Yes.
This is the Western version of I'm doing it myself. Dad didn't really tell me what to do. I can fuck around and find out. This seems like a good way of doing things. I don't see a detriment to this unless we start to look at statistics of like that white belt attrition rate thing. I don't know if people do belts anymore. We used to do belts back in the day. It's this thing where it was all for competition. Though. So I don't know how they do it for no-gi, because no-gi is the king. There was blue, purple, brown specifically for competition. That's it. It wasn't like I know more than this person.
Another thing is what we're saying is even when you're telling the student what to do, they are fundamentally fucking around and finding out in a like small area. Right? So, like, for instance,
it's not just free sparring. They can't get injured in a million ways, but they could possibly get injured in 1 or 2, which is, it's optimal. I'm sorry it is, because if you're going to make an omelet, you're going to break some fucking eggs. You don't get to learn how to do a combat sport and not get injured, so shut up. I actually agree with this. I like this. If you are giving them enough knowledge of the game, you put them into that little playing field and say, fuck around and find out within these parameters. I don't see that as a bad thing. I don't know why everybody's being such a douche about this. But you need to remember, you're doing positional sparring. Everybody's just being a bit of a dick about it. So you put them in a position, and it's not just, you're in half guard, get out of half guard. Okay, we're going to start from the arm bar, with the arm bar locked on. Dude, I do that. Like, we're not reinventing a wheel. We're just making it a little bit more clear and present, and we're creating a new way of teaching and presenting in schools. I don't think that's a bad thing, because most schools are shit, right? So I am okay with this. I'm completely fine. I'm not going to do it. I know how to do my job, and my students are like, oh, fuck, I understand what I'm doing. And then I name somebody else's gym, and then they ask me to teach them. Like, yeah, I know. Welcome to my fucking life. Basically, I got people coming to me from other gyms and showing me things that they're learning, and I go like, here, do this, this, and this instead. And then they come back the next day, like, holy fuck, that was amazing. And they looked at me like I'm a genius. Like, yeah, you go roll. I'm not rolling with that. I'll tune shit up. I'll guide. I will thoroughly, whether you like it or not, explain why a thing works. I don't see anything wrong with this version of teaching. And until I see any kind of statistics about, like, have you ever heard the white belt attrition? That's when we left. I was complaining about belts. White belt attrition rate. So beginner attrition rate.
Mm-hmm.
The turnover because of injuries is disgusting. That's why I actually really liked the Gracie University tactic of teaching. But the downside is they wouldn't have sparring. So I think this is a phenomenal middle ground, right? So the Gracie University would have, you don't spar until a certain level. So we could do reflex development training and some other stuff, but their classes are thorough, exceedingly thorough. I don't agree with the content, but I love the execution. So this is because of this, this, and this, and here's how you do it. I love it. Now, this equals this, this, and this is completely different where I'm training and who I'm learning from. So I couldn't teach that in my heart. Like, I agree with it, but I disagree with it. So I'm going to be teaching this version, so I won't be working there. Mm-hmm. The way they ran those beginners classes was safe and effective. And I loved it because people could come in and learn and not fucking die. And the white belt attrition rate, it drops. Then you've got this turnover of people that are kind of into jiu-jitsu for the rest of their lives. So if people are going into a sports school and they're doing these games, I'm not seeing a downside. At least they're being able to do what these guys weren't able to do, right? They can fuck around and find out with parameters of safety. And I like it. I think it's cool. I think both versions are cool, but we all need to kind of sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk a little bit more often instead of just internet flaming each other. There's a shit show out there. It's a hepatitis bathtub of hate. Fucking everyone just wants attention and love that they didn't get when they were a child through the internet. All those little buttons and shit. So I'm glad we got to do this. I'm actually understanding quite a bit more. Well, no, I'm not because I'm dumb. Like half of the words you said, like I owe you like $1,000 worth of expensive words on this whole podcast. But I do have a clearer view of what you guys are trying to achieve, and I respect it. Unless the other guy's being a douche, then I don't respect. We have constraint-led approach. There was 4 things to go through. We've gone through 1.
We went through 2. This one is representative design. The idea is when your practice environment doesn't look like your performance environment, we see very little transfer.
Okay.
So, right, and this is, in traditional models, they just call this specificity, right? It's something we've known is one of the first sports science principles ever of you want your training to look like your competition. Specificity. So the way we're conceptualizing it, though, is we're thinking about all of that information that's coming in, right? So not just like, okay, I'm running a marathon, so I should be running lots of marathons and running at marathon pace and slightly above marathon pace and, adaptation at the physiological level, but also all that attentional learning, right? Of what am I looking at that tells me when I can do an armbar? When am I intending to do an armbar based on what I'm seeing and hearing and feeling, right? The education of those things can't happen when that information isn't there, right? So a lot of that information, though, comes from the resistance. It's not just about the body position. It's about how can they resist and what can they do from those different positions and situations. When we practice without that information, we don't get to attune to any of those variables. We don't get to educate our intention. Hence, we get less learning. So we can bend that rule a little. We don't want, for instance, so if we say, okay, practice should be like the performance is sparring, so now all your practice is just sparring, start from anywhere. Well, now what happens is anything could happen. It could diverge in too many different ways. It's unfocused, right? You don't, and again, you're searching the remote with now 5,000 buttons.
Yeah, but shouldn't you focus on the fact that you have no variables and you're not in control? I think that's something that has to be. The whole point of sparring in general is because you flow. You let go and you go on autopilot and you don't know what's going to happen, but you're going to have to come to terms with, I don't know what's going to happen. So I feel like trying to put parameters on these things might be good if we're starting a competition in an armbar. Cool, but what happens when we fuck around and find out live in competition? What happens if Captain Fancy Pants decides to hit me with a chair in the street as opposed to a trash can? You need to know the pickle jar defense. That kind of shit. Like, you're not in charge of shit. You should be willing to go, okay, I guess I have to fuck around and find out from here. So I think free sparring is exceedingly important. Timed rounds, that's always good for competition, but then again, I don't raise competitors. I don't give a fuck. I think if you're gonna do like sprints under a timer, like get used to doing sprints with a timer. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, do you guys not do just free spar?
No, we do. Yeah, no, 100% we do. It's just we wouldn't want to only do that, right?
No.
So maybe like right before a competition, okay, now's the time. Yeah, maybe the week before a competition, just do sparring and like just try to run your like what you're gonna game plan for the competition, and maybe you roll with people that are similar to, you know, your competitors, the people you'll compete against, right? But in general, as far as skill development, we want to be like actually using those constraints a lot to like work on certain areas and certain slices and certain perspectives, you know, rather than just letting people like search the whole thing, you know?
Okay. Okay. I agree with that. Yeah. All right. So I got no arguments there. So we're at like 3. We got one more.
So yes, and the last one's easy because it's repetition without repetition again. It's just applied a little differently. Actually, I'll go into that, and then we'll just come back to representative
You
design.
just have a supercut of me reacting to the things you say. Every time you name something, oh, what's fuck?
I'm not going to do that, but if someone watching wants to, then they can. Repetition without repetition. Here it's just, okay, we talked about the blacksmiths. Now it's just, if we do the same task over and over, we're exploring the same space, right? So if we, for instance, if okay, you come in for a class and I say, okay, today we're doing armbar games. So, but every game is that same armbar game, right? It's a little different each time. Every time I attack a different thing, you know, you defend a different way, and then you attack a different thing, I defend a different way. But because we're doing the same task every time, it's like we're searching the same perceptual motor space. We're searching the same sort of area of like what I can do or how I can defend in an armbar situation, rather than if we do it differently, like if we change the constraints with each task, now we can get a lot. Now we're exploring different areas, or we could even explore the same area with different constraints, and we search. So now maybe we play a game. So we play the first armbar game, right? So I have the armbar, and I have to win by submission. You're defending. You win if you get out or do anything better, right? We play the game, and let's say you're getting out every time really quickly. Maybe we add another constraint that, based on the behavior we saw in that task, maybe we want to work on late escapes, right? So what we say is, same kind of general situation. We're still working arm bars, but now we're starting, your hands are unlocked. And you're starting with the arm extended. Now, I can't submit you. I just have to hold you with the arm extended and prevent you from escaping. Your job is to finish the escape. Again, or anything better, right? Yeah. So, and then imagine that versus we just run that armbar game again, right? We're going to learn a lot more by changing things each time. By getting repetition.
What we've been doing the whole time, though. We just gave it nice, fancy names now. So, okay, all right. So this is, what was it? It started with an R.
Repetition without repetition.
Repetition, because of course you had to call it that. This is a game that me and the late, great, Jesus Christ, I'm never going to let you live that down. We start in submissions. We'll start in a submission with no hands. So I recently filmed escaping the rear naked choke. And some sport wieners like filmed a thing of a stitch, like making fun of it. Like with I don't film things like that anymore. Because I feel like I have to explain it to a fucking dum-dum for them to get it. At any given cost. So Sheila, the woman that filmed, she was like, you have to explain it to a 5-year-old. Remember, otherwise they get upset. We would start with someone on the back. You get no hands. They do the choke. The choke is on. Okay, tap. Okay, tap. Okay. Oh, it's a little harder to tap. They're going to have to readjust me. But you're not allowed to readjust me. Can't get the tap from here, can you? Well, what if he doesn't readjust? What if he goes really fast? What if a dog doesn't shit, it explodes? You're saying the exact same thing. So we would start with a submission locked on. Okay, but you're not going to execute the submission just yet. We're going to start to practice a way out of it. Here's the fun part. Practice the way out of it by doing this. And now he's going to put it on a little bit harder with a little bit more stress, a little bit more resistance. I want you to do the same thing like this. Boom. I want you to take out the slack, make it a part of you, and then do the move. So having a coach coaching you and telling you what button to push while you're doing these things, I feel like there's a middle ground. If we could just have coaches thoroughly explain what we're supposed to do within those 3 buttons, we might achieve glory between the two of us. We could have a new way of teaching. I don't think both sides are retarded in a way. I think if we can pick the best of both sides and start to put them together, we could come up with something interesting. Starting from a fully locked on submission and then showing the escape to that submission. Also, without someone squeezing your neck so you can talk about the escape of the submission, you fucking retards. Try it. Actually try it. Try it with no resistance and then build up the resistance as you go and then build up the timing and the resistance as you go. So it's great. I think honestly, if people start in those positions, because there's a lot of schools that don't do that. I love that you're saying this, because there's fucking tons of schools that just go like, here's a move, drill the move, time to spar. I think that's where your side is going, fuck you. Meanwhile, my side's like this middle ground that doesn't do that. But we're not very vocal about how we drill and what we do, because fuck, man. Being taught how to do something properly is important to me. Having it explained to me thoroughly, that's the Westerner in me, right? I don't want to be right. I want to be wrong. That's why I travel to the other side of the world to be. I don't want you to strength your way into doing something and say like, well, fucking such and such did this in competition, so it works, bitch. Cool, man. Do you know, like, name drop? I'll just name drop somebody, and I'm not name dropping anybody, because I can't do that on the internet. If I said that name and you go, who's that? And I go all the way down to the name that everyone knows right now, that guy's gonna be that guy in like 6 years. Nobody's gonna fucking know who that guy is, dude. You're searching for efficiency, and if I can have somebody teach me efficiency, I want that. I don't want to fuck around and find out. I'd like you to show me your version of efficiency, then I can fuck around and find out. Then we can add stress. So the repetition without repetition. Whatever the fuck that means. The idea of starting from the armbar and now they can't do the armbar, they're not letting you out of it, that's fucking good. That's genius, and schools should be fucking doing that, man. Mine does. Mine does. We don't call it anything new. That's just how we do it. Right? So I like this. I'm glad we got to talk. I'm glad that there's not so much differentiation, at least between what I do and what you guys do. I just am not smart enough to say all the big words. So
Yeah.
we had this conversation. Now I feel smart by default.
No, I think you've learned a lot more, right? And we're getting a lot closer to the same page.
It drives me crazy that no one's been able to explain this to me for so long because they're too busy trying to argue about something. I didn't have an argument. I still don't understand why people are upset when you say don't drill, because I think we should between the two of us, could you clearly edify whoever, all 12 people that are going to watch this, can you please explain to them, when you say we don't drill, explain what drilling is in your words and why you don't drill, please.
Okay, I want to say one thing and then like kind of integrate this into that. Here's the thing. So I actually taught with like the progressive resistance thing for many years. Like for me, I was always like, okay, I was like the doing the repetitions with like a passive partner, or like when we're choreographing the Tori Uke thing, Uke Tori thing. You know, never made sense to me. I'm like, we're missing on the information processing level. So, but we have to do the techniques, and the techniques are good. So, and you can't learn them without starting with little resistance. If the resistance is too high, people can't do the move, right? So we start with a little and then we build it up, right? Okay. That's just kind of the problem with why we don't do it that way. So, like you were saying with the rear naked choke, right? When you're running that, so here's the rear naked choke defense, right? You know, you do XYZ thing. And now, okay, here's kind of the task is to like, now someone's trying to choke you and you have to get out, but you have to use the technique I just showed you to get out. And then we're running, like you said, with the repetition without repetition, you're changing the alignment, right? You're doing all that. Now, the problem with that is that's not fully resistive, right? You cannot add the full resistance without the person's ability to do the technique breaking down. Hence, you're practicing in an environment that suffers from a lack of representative design, right? It's not all the information is there. They're not trying to stop you.
What's representative design?
That was the one we just talked about. The practice should look like the performance environment.
But
In the traditional approach, drilling is all sorts of, it's a categorical word. People have different exact definitions of how they use it, but you're using repetition of a movement to learn something, right? There's an implication that you're installing a motor program in your brain, right? Or in your muscles or wherever you want to say it's stored. But you do the cross collar choke 1,000 times, and now you've installed the cross collar choke, and then you can do it on the resistant partner. You can do it under stress. But we're saying, like, stress changes things fundamentally. Resistance changes things fundamentally. It doesn't, and we don't think you're storing we don't think you can store a movement pattern in the brain. And further, we don't think actually you're even coordinating yourself in a way when you do a skilled movement. We don't think you're even coordinating your body to do a certain thing. We think actually your joints are self-organizing to actually achieve the functional outcome. It's a little different for instance, in ballet, in figure skating, there's a definition of what the skill is. In gymnastics, there's a code of points. If you do the skill and it's, you bend your elbows on an iron cross, you bend your elbows 10 degrees, minus the 10th of the point. 30 degrees, minus half of a point. More than that, your entire skill is disqualified. So we fundamentally, at some level, can't really let you self-organize a solution to how you do that. Your solution has to look like this. Otherwise, you're getting points taken off in the sport. For those sorts of sports, you can use tasks here and there. They already do. But you're going to have to do some drilling. You're going to have to guide people towards doing the movement in a certain way, because that's the performance criteria of the sport. In jiu-jitsu and in many other sports...
It froze. I thought you were going for a pregnant pause. That was a dramatic neurolinguistic programming pause. See, that's why I like you, because there's no duplicity behind this. You are genuinely trying to make me smarter. Okay. You're not trying to convince me of shit. You are just inundating me with knowledge and expecting me to believe it. Let's go right back, and with way less words. Why isn't it called drilling when you repetitiously do a thing before you even do the constrained part? You have to be shown how.
We don't even do that part. So we can show the move, right? So we're not saying just throw people into the task without showing them what they could do from there. You can do that. But for novices, we know that it's not a good idea. There's research that shows this.
Okay, so you show them what to do, and they do it a couple times before you put them in the thing, right?
We would almost always skip that, do it a couple times. You could do it. Again, today we're doing a wrestling task. I want you to put your partner on the floor or achieve a submission or back take. Here's what those might look like. And you could, as you say that, you could show an arm drag. That's how you get to the back. You could show a single leg. That's how you do a takedown. You could show these, but those are your goals.
Yeah.
And now you can go do it. We skip the actual drill. Here's a single leg, drill the single leg. We skip that. That doesn't make sense to us.
Okay, so why? I got two questions on that.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me of the second question.
Mm-hmm.
The first question, you let's go with the wrestling thing. So now you can take their back, you could do a submission, you could do a takedown, and here's what they look like. And then go fuck around and find out. Preventiveness of injury. When we start standing, I see a lot of people wearing knee braces these days in jiu-jitsu. Just saying. So, do you teach them how to break fall? Do you teach them how to receive a takedown? Are they taught that before?
So, in general, not for the break falls, but in general, we don't show break falls. There's a judo instructor by the name of Cal Jones. I did a podcast with him. He doesn't teach break falls at all, really. He'll have people do it a few times. Again, this comes back to a little bit what you're saying with what you were kind of implying with the beginners.
Yeah.
At that point, we're not always optimizing for motor learning, right? There's some aspects of we want people to feel confident and comfortable. And if you have a lot of people, if they come in day one, they feel comfortable just running the task-pull resistance, great. But there's a lot of people that aren't going to feel great doing that. And so
for business reasons or for confidence reasons, if you want to have those people feel a break fall once or twice, feel what it's like to be taken down by a single leg once or twice, right? If you want to do that for business reasons, just so they feel confident.
You drill, but you don't tell anyone.
Well, so
You keep it hidden.
I'm just, no.
You move this into a separate room and then show them how to do something. Shh, don't tell anybody else that we're actually. Then you send them back out. Got it. Fuck.
So I don't do that, but I'm just saying, you totally could, like that's where like you as a business owner, you make a decision.
Me as a business owner, me as a martial artist, whether you like it or not you in general. I'm not an athlete. I am unfortunately an artist, and it's unfortunately martial about that art. If I'm going to be sharing my knowledge is fucking violence, and I want you to be safe learning how to be violent.
Yes.
So the first thing that I'm doing, whether you like it or not, is you're drilling, you fucking asshole. You're going to do a warm-up, and the warm-up is not you doing jumping jacks. The warm-up's not you jogging in place. The warm-up is you doing a forward roll, break fall on both sides, and then a technical stand-up. Backwards roll, break fall, roll over the shoulder, technical stand-up. You should know how to do a hip escape and a shrimp, and they're two separate things. Then you should know how to do an upa. That's your warm-up every single class. That way it is just ingrained into your body. And if I make that 10 minutes out of every single class, I don't think that's a bad thing. Mm-hmm. I don't think I'm shooting myself in the foot by teaching people how to be safe. And also, if those students don't know how to do those things, I have another instructor leading the way while I teach them how to do these things. So, I don't know, man. I know it's a new world and everybody's super cool these days, and I'm not allowed to be cool.
No, I'm totally with you, but we could do that through constraints, right? So if we have people, if we're running the task, say we want to start class with a wrestling drill, but I look around the beginning of class and it's like, they're all beginners they're over the age of like 65, right? Like, okay, let's be very safety conscious today. So
today.
Well, the reality is as people get more skilled, they learn how to protect themselves, right? They learn what not to do. And again, you can never fully prevent it, of course. But
I feel like you could at least give them some safety tips. If I was teaching
no.
And I say, keep your hands really low. Keep your hands down here. And don't move your head. Never move your head. Let's see how this goes, and then you could fuck around and find out. That brain loss, just because we don't have this staggering amount of fucking brain injuries in what we do yet, I'm hoping that they find out in the next few years that we're all retarded because of jiu-jitsu. That gives me hope. I've got a reason for being this dumb. I feel like you really, really, like it's your duty to show the students, unfortunately, this Eastern version of things where you're supposed to listen to an instructor because they have knowledge that you don't. And then once you have that knowledge, go get your stupid dragon tattoo on your neck and do cocaine. I really do think that we are doing an injustice to students by not showing them why and how something is done and how to stay safe while learning these things. I still love what you guys are doing with the like I'm genuinely starting to understand the idea of like we start in the arm bar. Okay, fuck around and find out. We're only doing this, but maybe they'll attack your legs. First off, if you get leg locked in an arm bar, fuck you, man. That's the instructor's fault. There's two separate things. And they're like, what was that? Fuck you. But then, like, the adding resistance, like, yeah, you can do it, but don't do it. Okay, I get that, and I dig it. I actually very much agree with it. But, man, if I'm teaching takedowns and I didn't teach you how to be taken down, I'm a shit coach. Sorry. And I know a lot of shit coaches, and I'm not going to be quiet about it. Like, that's the reason I am at the stupid point where I am, is because I'm not quiet about things. You could do better, and you could be better. No, there you go. You and I think we disagree, but we agree. But you hide it in a room and don't tell anybody?
No, we pretty much agree. So, like, for instance, what's the worst possible thing that can happen in a takedown, right? You smack the back of your head on the floor, right? And then
they signed a waiver. It's fine,
right? So we can tell people, hey, like that's the sort of thing. It's so risky, or it's not all that risky. But when it does happen, it's really bad when it does happen, right? So we can say that's a good situation where we can tell people, hey, tuck your neck. If you're falling backwards, tuck your neck so you don't hit your head. And maybe if you
do it a couple times.
If you want, yeah.
I'm not going
if
to
you
say
want,
you should drill it, but you could ecologically do it a few times.
But yes, so we could do it. But yeah, so
we're going to make a little baby. You and me, we're going to do something good here. I promise. Someone out there is going to like, all right, he's not wrong and he's not wrong. Maybe we can all not be cunts.
So check it out, right? So if we just drill a whole bunch of times, you break fall and then you tuck your head, right? You fall backwards, tuck your head.
Watch your mouth. They're going to kick you out of the club. You're not going to be allowed at the cool kids table anymore if you say that word again.
Break fall, that one.
That's a fucking rule. No break falling either. It's a ecological mat return.
Well, so I'm kind of getting there, but
it's a mat return of photosynthesis. I can't think of any other big words right now. It's a recalcitrant mat return. Done. It's pregnant pause.
I've really loved your frankness with like saying like, no, I don't understand. Like, explain it again, you know? Like, I love that.
That's a problem with today. That's a problem with most people because they've got this magnificent thing that just gives them answers all the time. But it turns out this thing's lying 90% of the time too. So it used to be okay when I was a kid, when somebody asked you a question, you're like, oh, I don't know. I'll go to the library and look. I'll ask my dad, that kind of thing. But nobody wants to be that. They want to be a fucking genius for some reason. The reason I do what I do is because I actually want to know and I want to grow and I want to become better and I want to evolve, which is a fucking full irony where people yell at you about the evolution of jiu-jitsu. You don't understand jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu's evolved. Oh, okay. Jiu-jitsu's become something completely different. It really has, right? I'm searching for efficiency and I'm searching for answers. And if Master Rickson gives me an answer and it's an efficient answer, I'm down. I have to go out of my way to try and get to that. And I tried really hard to go out of my way to get to that. And there's a bunch of people like shooting fucking arrows at me. No, he's ours. Like, dude, like everyone deserves knowledge. Like, I'm hunting this down, like, relentlessly, and I really respect him and the effort he's put in. If someone else shows him something, and he goes, oh, that's better than this, he'll start teaching that. So you need to understand how open that man is to learning as well. It's the same thing as Bruce Lee. You are supposed to be attaining excellence. It's the progress of Kaizen. You're supposed to be trying to not be a cunt on a daily basis. You want to be open, you want to learn, you want to change, you want to grow. If you don't and you want to sit back here and be the one who's right, I don't want anything to do with you. Like, you're poison to me, man.
With the break falling, so we might say, like, if we just have people do the repetitions over and over, now they're not learning so much because they're doing a bunch of repetitions of the same thing, and it's not really a representative environment. Right? They're not even working with a partner.
No, you don't. What if we add resistance and stress to the break falling, and what if we change the environment?
That's exactly what we would do, right? So
That's what I'll do.
Yes.
Good, we're the same thing. We just use bigger words. Dude, when I do break falls, let me tell you how I teach break falls. So maybe this will explain it. If you have a beginning student, I don't just have you doing break falls for the thing. Like, I take you into a separate room. Nobody needs to know. No. You start by sitting on the ground on your butt. You squeeze your core and you rock back and forth as one solid unit of person, not just bits and pieces of person. One solid unit. Once you learn how to do that, I get you to slap the ground. And when I get you to slap the ground, I get you to slap it in a certain way. You don't reach wide because you hit your elbows. You reach for your toes and you turn your thumbs. That way your elbows are out and you use your palms to inflate. Keep your chin tucked, blah, blah, blah. Now, you're doing that pretty good. Now we need to roll over the shoulder. Here's how you can learn how to roll over the shoulder without me. I want you to lock your core. You're holding a ball. I want you to look over your shoulder and up. And then you're going to throw that ball and you're going to follow it. And you're going to roll over your shoulder in a straight line, not like a fucking idiot that goes off into a side. There's a way of teaching these things. Now, you're sitting on the ground. There's a bunch of you sitting around in a circle. You're slapping the ground, rocking back and forth. Maybe I come over and I grab your ankles and I lift them gently. Good job. Good job. Maybe duck, duck, goose. I lift your ankles really fucking fast and scare the shit out of you. And you smack the ground. Oh, fuck. That starts to build a bit of resistance to stress. You're like, oh, God, I could go fast at any given time. But if I know I keep my chin tucked, I don't hit my head. And we build and we build and we build. Then eventually you do it with a partner. and they're in a little turtle and you walk backwards and you can't sit straight down, you have to sit back across the person to do the break fall. We build and we do games. Then we start to add resistance. Well, maybe we're walking backwards and maybe they start to pull you, but maybe they push you at the wrong time and then you have to fall. Oh, fuck, man. That was scary. It's like that time he grabbed my ankles when I was a kid. You build up stress, that progressive stress. Then when you're sparring, fuck, man, I hope you know how to fall forward, backwards, side to side, and down. Because I don't know what the dipshit's going to do this time. Maybe if it's constraint and we're starting from a side clinch. Side clinch and my arm is trapped. $5 says I'm going fucking that way. $5 says I'm going fucking that way. At least I'm ready for it, right? But then we're free sparring. I don't know where we're going, but I know how to land. At least I'm good at that. So I feel like we're doing the same thing. We're just not, well, I'm not advertising about it. I'm not trying to tell people I'm doing the same thing. Maybe we could speak more about the idea of how to run classes, how to teach and share.
Yeah.
Knowledge. Because I'm enjoying what I'm getting out of these conversations.
I think this is the one I'm most excited about. Because first I want to like congratulate you that as far as I know, if we could call you a traditional coach, I don't think any other traditional coaches have like gone this deep, have been willing to like hear out this much. You know, and being open and humble enough to like learn, you know, so I want to like congratulate you on that and like appreciate you for that, you know, and like
Thanks.
That's awesome.
It's very sweet of you. I do everything I can to get the internet to love me more. I cannot give a shit. This is just interesting, and you're a really nice guy.
I think if you're cool with it, I wanted to like start like test you a little bit to start with that because we did go through everything. But
I don't remember shit. No. Figure it out the fucking out. Nope. No. I listened politely and I was like, all right, positional sparring.
I mean, yeah, you got deeper than I know you got deeper than that. So let's try a little and then I'll help you through it. And
Please.
so what do we got? Like what's your lay of the land here?
Fuck around and find out with big words. Positional sparring, but with better context. It's very interesting the way that, like, okay, I want you to do this, but only this, this, and this. I like that part. And then I believe we came to a decision that not drilling how to do break falls and then just saying to take someone down was stupid. So I think that was a mutual thing. So you fell into my trap on that one.
I'm not sure if I said that, but we were talking about old people, okay? We're talking about frail old people, all right?
God forbid. I've had three ukes. I don't know if your audience knows what an uke is. Traditional wiener words. Partner, good, bad guy, that have popped out a collarbone from an upa. So if I don't tell you to tuck your shoulder when you roll and you land on your shoulder and your collarbone pops out, they're not frail, they're not old. Your body's just stupid. Everybody thinks that they're fucking, I'm a man, I'm the best fighter in. You're a sack of water and you're lucky you didn't die jerking off in the shower. Everything is like, you could get injured doing anything. Trust me.
It's true.
So no, it's not just frail people falling over. It's grown-ass men breaking fingers the wrong way because they posted the wrong way. So I highly disagree with that part.
I mean, also shit happens too, you know, there's no amount of
padded floor with padded walls and you signed waivers and shit. So you're not there to fucking knit. You're there to learn how to fight, so you're probably going to get hurt. But if I can mitigate that in any way, that makes me a professional.
For sure.
Because fuck you, I'm a professional in my bathrobe. Of like putting parameters on things. Like I like the idea of putting the parameters and the constraints around the student so that they have to start to solve the problem themselves. I enjoyed that, and I also like the idea of there's 100 buttons on the remote control and you only whittle down to 3 buttons. Okay, it's one of those 3. So it's also that neurolinguistic programming, I lied to you to lie to yourself thing. So now the learning curve is better. So you guys are finding ways to cheat too, so I'm proud of you, honestly. Like, any way to make the student feel good is a good thing. Like, when I was at the university for this, correct praise was a regular occurrence. Like, you tell them they're doing a good job, you correct them, and then say they're doing a good job. I think that's another way around that. Like, that was good. Here, try it like this. Good job. Like, you don't go, what are you doing, retard?
Right.
which I do. I do it all the time. The way I teach, my students know that I have a sense of humor, and most of my students have senses of humor. So when I say, like, your other left foot, dipshit, they laugh. Meanwhile, some guy in Arizona is like, well, fuck that guy. He's a terrible teacher. Like, oh, okay. That's why you've got, like, 8 students to have a sense of humor about it. But I do really like that. I like the idea of praise, correct, praise. So there's your 3 little buttons. Whether you like it or not, you're lying.
What's lying whether you like it or not part? Where's that
So
coming
it's
from?
giving them the deception of choice. So instead of here's 1,000 ideas, here's 3 that might work and one of them was actually correct, and I'm going to make you think that you thought that was the correct one yourself. When you get what I mean, you're kind of putting them in a box where they can fuck up twice and find one correct one and go like, I'm a genius. Well, you could have just told them what button to push.
Sure.
But that comes into the whole Western philosophy of like, put your foot there, fucking make me.
Sure.
What? Beat me up, man. Come on, fuck me up. Like, oh, okay. I'm just telling you, if you put your foot there, it works.
Yeah.
So the whole Western philosophy, you're not my fucking coach kind of thing.
Sure. There's a whole cultural side of that could come into this, but we come it from a different direction. And so the way I think about it is, so you're narrowing. So if you just had people roll, they could do anything, right? They could hit any of the buttons. They have no idea which buttons they should even try to press, right? Yeah. And so if you give them intentions, try to put your partner's butt on the floor, right? Try to take them down. Okay, you're narrowing things down, right? You're giving them a direction, an intention. But another thing I think about a lot that is different from the traditional approach, but you might agree with me actually.
Oh, probably.
So say like, and I'm sure you know this, right? So every time you put someone in like an entanglement, right? Like an X guard, single leg X, any of those, you know how people screw it up constantly, right? They cannot figure out which leg goes where, and like they like terrible at it, almost without exception. And so what I've started doing, so before I think that's somewhere where I think technical feedback could have a place. Before I would think that technical feedback could be one of the most useful places there, because that's still static, right? Like, there's no dynamics in the situation when the situation hasn't started yet, So it's like you could tell someone, hey, like, they're about to start, and their entanglement is like, there. And you could tell them, hey, connect your foot and your knee, right? And, okay, they can fix that.
Uh-huh.
And nothing dynamic is happening. So they can just take the time to like, oh yeah, let me do this. Pinch your knees together, get your hip behind their knees, right? You could do that, and they're not having to navigate the sea of dynamic information as everything's changing. The game hasn't started yet. So that could be a good place to do it. But now what I do, I avoid that. So now when people, at least when they partner with me, they'll screw it up, right? They always do. And then I will honestly even try to avoid correcting them, because if I correct them, it's just verbal information they're getting. And they can reorganize just through like, oh, okay, I shouldn't do that, so let me try to like, do whatever I tell them to do, right? Pinch the knees or whatever. But if they do the entanglement wrong and I smash them, like within 2 seconds because they did it completely wrong, now they get a really embodied learning of like what can happen. And there's a lot more information than just the verbal thing I could give them that tells them not just that it was not good, but also how someone could capitalize on, that mistake. And so in that way, they learn a lot more. And then what you see is like, then they'll start very quickly figuring out, oh, okay, I need to like pinch the knees here, What do you think of that?
I think that's literally how I teach.
Yeah. I thought we might agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's any differentiation between the two. I just think that there's really bad instructors out there. Like, here's a move, go do it. I get it. That's a shit instructor. And I love the fact that ecological learning, what is the name of this thing? Is there a name?
Ecological dynamics. Yeah.
Okay.
So like the field is ecological dynamics, and then you could apply it to whatever sport. And then the name for the application of it that we usually use is the constraints-led approach.
Okie dokie.
So, like,
when
yeah,
I teach
yeah.
something, I make sure that I give the context of why we're doing this move. Because I'm not, 9 times out of 10, I'm not teaching the sport application. I'm teaching, we did a takedown, I fucked up mount, I rolled off, I'm in guard. They're pushing off the ground, Kimura. So there's context. I will literally demonstrate the context as to why I'm there. And then, here's the Kimura, here's how you should do it, here's why you should do it like this. And I show all the things that can go wrong. I show them
Yeah.
in a stage play manner. I don't just mumble in like broken fucking words. You just like, just kind of like, just do it. You fucking retard. You're not a good teacher. So when I do it, all right, does everybody understand? Is there any questions? If anybody wants to feel me sing out, I will physically come over and do it to you so you can feel why we do it like this. And then I say things like, well, as they're in there, like, okay, sit up straight. You can't. That's why you can't sit up straight. So I was like, yeah, but what if? It's basically you guys are taking out the white belt. Yeah, but what if? What if I do this? Yeah, but what if I do that? What if? Well, just be a better instructor and say, like, there's no what if because of this, this, and this. And if you do get this, next class. This is what we're going to focus on next class. So if you just be a better instructor. I like that you guys have gone off and actually found out how to be better instructors. You actually have. You put in the effort in how to instruct your teams better, your students better. I feel like I did that. I just did it in a different way with less words because I'm not smart. If I tried to read a book on ecological learning, I will fall asleep. The same as I fall asleep watching John. I love John, but oh my God, I will fall asleep. So it's how much passion you want to put into this project, sir. But yeah, no, I feel like we have a lot of the same stuff in the same lane. And I just call it positional fucking sparring. So, do you guys Shark Tank? Do you ever do that?
Yeah.
What do you call it? I think it's got a better name.
I love Shark Tank. I think that's a great word for it. It's
Okay, so
it's very vivid.
It's vivid. I like that.
And so that's one thing where, again, like the traditional approach and what we do really matches. Here's another thing. I think if you took the traditional approach and you took out the situational sparring and certainly like the open sparring, if you took that out and you just had drilling, everyone would be terrible. It would be so obvious how ineffective that is. Yeah. And then it would be then the switch to ecological dynamics, everyone would have made it, within a few months. It would have been so crisp. Because people would have dominated in competition easily. Like, the reality is people with the traditional approach are still, at this point, they're incredibly high-level athletes. It's not like you can do a year or 2 or even 3 of ecological, CLA and an ecological dynamics approach to jiu-jitsu and then go win black belt worlds. Like, not even close, Yeah. So, but like, the reason for that is because of situational things like Shark Tanks are really effective, And we're like,
I like that we don't have to explain what that is, because there's no one listening to this podcast that doesn't do jiu-jitsu. There's no one on their drive time commute that found this because of Amy Poehler's podcast.
I don't know.
Oh, fucking listen to this.
I'm a movement teacher, so I have a lot of people that they're dancers.
You should
and
probably explain to them what a Shark Tank is.
Okay, so Shark Tank, there's different versions of it, but it's variations of, you get one person in the middle, usually someone that's like very good, they're preparing for like a high level competition, especially if no one else is at their level. And then you just get like 5, 6, 10 people, and they're just gonna they go roll with the guy in the middle. Okay, someone loses. Okay, next guy. Roll with the same guy. Okay, and you just keep going. Version. Okay.
So that's just called a gangbang. So the different version that I have, we have the line of students against the wall, and we got I don't know, 6 or 7 guys out on the mat. So the 6 or 7 that I pick, like you, like you're on the mat, grab some space. And let's say we're starting from half guard bottom. Person on the line, when they go in, your job is to pass or submit. Bottom, your job is to sweep, submit, or re-guard. So if the bottom sweeps, submits, or re-guards, the other guy goes back onto the line. And if that other guy wins, he stays in.
Yep.
So that's the Shark Tank that I came up with.
Yep.
Not me, but like literally the one that I was raised in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like the gangbang one. That's cool.
They're both good. I've honestly done more of that one.
I did the predominant part of my training in Australia, and Australia was further behind back in the day. We didn't have jiu-jitsu the way America had jiu-jitsu for a lot longer than us.
Yeah.
And they came out swinging. We got some really good competitors out of Australia, and a lot of them went out and started training at the Death Squad back in the Blue Basement. They were traveling around doing quite a bit of stuff, probably in the 2000s, like early 2000s. Before that, we had like Peter DeBean, John Will, a couple others, and they had academies. And we would have old school rough and tumble, plus we'd have someone who saw Marcelo Garcia online, and then they started doing some like weird shit that the old school rough and tumbles didn't understand. So it was like this clash of no, and then the sport guys went off and uber sported, and then the other ones went off and I don't know what they're doing. You either went off and uber sported, and then like Gracie University started coming over in drips and drabs, and like Robbie Singh's running a really good one out in Burwood. Yeah, it's weird because in America, I feel like you guys where are you?
I'm in Maryland right now.
In America?
Maryland, but I grew up in like the Bay Area, California.
Yeah, okay, so like you guys had it before us. It was awesome. And I'm talking like the version that people call Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, or now it's American Jiu-Jitsu, because there's different versions of Jiu-Jitsu now. I got motherfuckers like complaining that what I'm doing is Aikido. Like, dude, this is weird. Like, there's no delineation until there's a rule set for sport, you know? Because like Gene LaBelle put it really well, of all people. The living heel. I love Gene LaBelle. You can't be a knocker, because if you're just shitting other things, you're like, fuck you, dude. Don't be a knocker. Don't knock everything. Like, and my favorite line is, everything has something to give you, even Aikido, and they wear dresses. So you can learn something from every single martial art. When you start like drawing a line and dividing, you're being a douche. You're being a knocker. So you should be willing to be open and learning in this shit. When it comes to the sport of jiu-jitsu, it's had a huge surge. Like, it's become a thing now. And that's why we're having this conversation in general, you know? Because things like IFBJJ, is it IFBJJ?
IBJ.
Yeah, whatever. I don't know. I can't keep up with acronyms. It's too fucking many. EJI, CD, Day, IFKs. I don't care. Whatever you're doing, you got your rule set. And your rule set has created a sport. And now we have ecological learning dynamics so that you can get better at that sport faster. I'm doing a martial art.
Yeah.
Like, my goal was a martial art. My goal is not necessarily, I want to get that trophy really fucking bad and be King Dick of Instagram land.
Right.
Like, I want to know how to cut you. Like, what's the best way to stab you? That's not a fucking joke, man. Like, I wanted martial arts. Like, where do I stab you if I need you dead faster?
We went in different directions.
Yeah. But we're still in the same lane. That's the fucked up thing. We're still in the same lane. Like, how do I get to my primary? Like, how do I hold you off while I get to... Because there's guys like ShivWorks that are focusing on that. And then there's guys like, I don't know, who's the best sport guy now?
Gordon. I mean, he's like having a lot of issues, but he's still the best.
Okay, fuck yeah. So Gordon's doing Gordon, and he's winning all the things, right?
Yeah.
So you've got like two hardcore lanes. There's a big divergence between the two. There's grappling to get to your gun, or there's grappling to get to the prize, you know? And you're still grappling. That's the cool thing, is that you're still learning how to grapple and why you do these things.
This is where I think ecological dynamics is even more useful.
I know.
For self-defense.
What if, so this is why I'm thinking about this. So if I had two guys drilling in a car, like, how do I get my seatbelt off properly? Now, you don't just take a seatbelt off. You slip the thumb in. How do you take the seatbelt off correctly so that you can get to your primary? That kind of shit. So that's, you're constraining things. You're sitting in a car, you know, like, your job is to take the seatbelt off. Go. You know, that kind of shit. So there is something to be said about the way you guys are approaching teaching. And I'm interested and I want to learn more, but you gotta stop using so many big fucking words.
You gotta watch my documentary. You gotta tell me, like, you gotta be real with me, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, like, how boring, how sleepy do you get, you know? Like, I really tried as hard as I could, man, but...
You gotta get somebody with stage presence to do that shit. You gotta find somebody to just start yelling dick jokes. They'll convince everybody. The other part of this is that 80% of the people that are doing it are wieners, and they're mad at you for not liking them. So it's weird how angry they get. running around yelling at guys teaching in garages. At least they're passionate. You're a good instructor, but you're giving it your all and you're trying to help your community and being cool. So I think the ecological thing is getting a bad rap because a lot of people are acting a bit pompous.
Again, because we have to, I think, respect each other's like passion. And, like, that's one thing. Like, if there's a like, it's not like I'm not gonna claim I like respect everyone, right? Like,
Oh, I don't.
you know, like we've got different things. For me, like I think if you're a teacher, you're a coach, that is a huge responsibility, and that deserves, you know, your time and energy and like attention, you know.
Extremely thankless job.
But for me, like if you have that passion, you know, you could be going about it in any of a million ways that I think are terrible. But like if you're trying, then like I can respect that. Like no matter what you're doing, like as long as there's some energy and intention and you're trying to like do good for your students, you know?
Like I said, just like Jared Leto. How sad is that? Like this hobby is making someone upset about you.
Yeah.
Everybody trying to do better should be applauded. You know, the fact that we're doing ecological dynamics in general should be applauded. People are trying to grow and trying to change, and anybody diminishing someone trying to be better is a douchebag.
For sure.
So you should definitely not shit on it. You should open your mind and open your heart and shut your fucking mouth and try and listen. So that's what I'm trying to do, but I got like a tiny little heart. It's like black, and my mind is vacant anyways, and I never shut my fucking mouth. I'm getting the best of it.
0 for 3.
All three of them are a good fuck, but they're trying something compared to most.
So I wanted to go back to the self-defense in the car situation, right?
Yeah.
One of the big kind of core things of the theory is that in ecological dynamics there is no perfect technique, right?
Yeah.
Because if we look at the expert performers, there's a lot of variability in what they're actually doing. If when we looked at expert, it's not like there's variability in everything. So there's some mathy stuff about the uncontrolled manifold. So if you try to do a very specific task that it has a certain, so for instance, like if I do a study and everyone's trying to like put their finger right on the camera, right? And so now I can measure the variability in the position as you go there, right? And so we can say what variability is productive and what's unproductive. So the unproductive variability will be decreased in experts. But there's variability that doesn't matter, and you'll see that that's kind of often higher in experts, because why waste energy locking down degrees of freedom? That's extra tension, right? That's one of the key things that we see in expert performers is like they're relaxed. You know, you don't have to lock everything down when you know just what you need to use.
Yeah.
So the expert performers are variable with how they do things. And based on that, and based on just the very simple idea that every time you do something, it's at least a little different. You can never do something the exact same way.
Yeah, but
So-
all right. Sorry, I'm gonna let you go. I promise. But we are still touching the camera.
Yes.
Yeah. So you aim for perfection, you land around excellence.
Yeah. Wait,
And
yeah.
cut. That's it. Less words. I aim for perfection, I land around excellence.
The slight issue I have with that wording is it implies that there's a
Excellence is
perfection
perfection.
that's possible there, right? That there's like a perfect movement.
Oh, there's no. Okay, so that's just an old saying because there is no perfection. When you aim for perfection, whether you like it or not, you land around excellence.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm trying to get through on this. I
Yeah.
love the idea of, okay, I'm going to be the best camera toucher. You know, like, and this poor fucking metaphor, thanks. Why did you use that one?
No, it's right in front of me.
The best camera toucher. I'm going for it. Boop. So you've got the guy, but someone had to tell them that's a camera and you use your finger to touch it. So
Yeah.
I feel like that's the thing that's most misconstrued about this is that you guys are telling people what their goal is.
Yes.
Right? But
Absolutely.
I'm a little bit more blatant with my students as to what the goal is. They push off the ground, you grab the wrist, you wrap over the elbow. It's called a kimura. Here's how you do it. right? As opposed to if he pushes off the ground, what are you going to do? You know,
So-
like, I want it to be more clear.
Yeah.
I like the way you're doing it, but I want it to be
Yeah.
much more streamlined and defined.
I feel like I could maybe pull you over here a little bit because it sounds like you care about how students achieve the goal. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So keeping in mind that real skilled performance is going to be variable, they're not actually aiming for this one specific thing, right? So we can measure, we can do an uncontrolled manifold analysis on something like camera touching because the camera is on one point, right? The camera doesn't move. As soon as the camera is dynamic, or as soon as we're something like grappling, no chance. At least we need another tool because there's no clear how do you know what's functional variability when the goal is changing, right? Even if the goal is to get a rear naked choke, if you're attacking someone, they're defending differently, right? So how do you know what's the useful way what's the perfect way to do that, or the most effective way to do that, and what's variability away from that, what's variability towards that? But anyway, I think you also do care though mainly about achieving the functional goal, right? Like you just think, if I understand right, you care about how they do the movement, but only because you think it helps them get to the goal faster. Is that right?
Not necessarily. So I teach the movement. Okay, so let's say, for lack of a better choice, not lack of a better choice, let's talk about the rear naked choke. So I have to teach you how to do a rear naked choke properly, not just squeeze the neck. If you squeeze the neck, let's say they have 10 to 20 seconds of survival because your choke is shit. That's 10 to 20 seconds of escape, because believe it or not, there's escapes, right? After you know how to apply the choke, I want to show you one specific scenario that feeds that choke to you. Not just, we're going to get to the back and we're going to make this choke happen. No, I'm going to have a partner that physically does a thing, and that's going to be like red light, green light. If they don't do that thing, do choke now. They do
if they lift up the neck, you do the choke?
No. Like they turn their fucking back. How did you get there to begin with? So let's say the first rear naked choke that personally I think you should learn should be belly down rear naked choke. We did a takedown. We ended up in the mount. The person rolls to their belly to get to their knees because not everyone is an 80cc's champion, you fucking idiots out there. Some people turn their back because they don't know any better. You should learn how to flatten out a partner. You should learn that when they roll over, you can flatten them and it's hard to get up. Now, when it's hard to get up, they use their hands and they leave their neck open. So which way does their chin turn? Okay, so which way do you need to do the choke? And how do you do the choke? So if I teach it in a specific order, you're getting bullet points of why you get to do this as opposed to, go fuck around and see if you can do this. You're on their back. How did I get here? This is where we're sparring from. That's how you got here. I prefer to have a linear way of teaching to where a student can perform something that's fairly high percentage with somebody untrained, and then we change the performance for someone who's trained. Let's say I rolled off from the mount, I'm in the guard. And in the guard, I managed to take your arm across the center line. I don't care how you do it, everyone's weird. Once the arm is across the center line, if you sit your posture up, I can change my angle, drag you across, and apply a rear naked choke from a back take. That is one linear fucking line. That is not a scramble to take the back to do a choke. I like beginning, middle, end, and I like all three parts explained in black and fucking white. So I think there's definitely a side to this where having them do something, and giving them some vague parameters is going to be okay. But it's not old school because this isn't the way fucking anybody taught me. I just had to choose that this was the way that my students learn. And I don't make competitors, so I don't have any way of measuring the outcome. You know what I mean? But fuck off, I got blue belts that tap out fucking brown belts. I think I'm doing okay. They get a rear naked choke on a brown belt that came rolling through. Like, oh, shit, you guys are pretty fucking good. Thanks. I'm doing something right. I know I'm doing something right. I just don't have the public platform to see, and
Sure.
We don't work well with time limits.
Yeah.
The way I teach doesn't have a timer. It's weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like having, I'm going to get sued for saying this, reflex development drills. I think that's patent pending, maybe. I don't know. I didn't come up with it. Don't sue me. So I like the idea of reflex development. So being fed something. Like, you don't have boxers just fucking swinging. You have boxers slipping. You know, like they get good at these things before they start to parry, before they start to do anything. They have to do the drills. They have to learn what the game is. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I get it. I disagree. So, like, for instance, boxing is a great example because I did a few months of college boxing.
How'd
Like,
that
it
go?
just-
It hurts.
Well, no, actually. So here's the thing. It was like college boxing club, right? One of my friends was on it. Cool, yeah, I want to try boxing. So I go. 3 months, all we did was bag work. I don't know if we even did much pad work. Bag work and like slips, you know, and footwork, right? So I never, and this is an extreme, but because there was so much of learning that fundamentals, let's say, or like trying to get me to learn fundamentals, I never actually got to apply it, right? I never got to feel, how do I actually slip a punch when someone's actually trying to punch me? How do I actually move around when someone's actually trying to punch me? And so I did a video with some friends a few weeks ago now. We did like MMA and like jiu-jitsu on different surfaces. But they're both pretty skilled strikers. One's a 4th degree black belt. The other one did like 7 years of Muay Thai. And so it was funny because for me, I've got this 3 months of boxing experience with all drilling. I have technically, really, 3 years of Taekwondo experience. Again, where I was a kid, right? This was like 2nd grade, but you know, we're doing all this very isolated drills, you know, punching, you know, pieces of paper, kicking pieces of paper, kids classes, but the farthest thing from here's another person, it wasn't even we didn't even do point sparring, right? So like 3 years of Taekwondo, 3 months of boxing, you know, and then, you know, 8-9 years of jiu-jitsu. But no idea how do I actually work with this situation of someone actually trying to hit me, right? Yeah. And so I tried the Gracie Combatives thing. So I had the first jiu-jitsu seminar I ever took was from Henry Akins, and I really, just like you, I think he's got I really love the way he teaches. You know, it's very traditional, but like I love the language and like the attention to detail and the passion and like, you know, he's done a lot of stuff, right? And I don't know do you know him actually?
I do.
Yeah.
He's not teaching a Gracie Combatives one. The Gracie Combatives one is the hands here. The Henry Akins one, he's doing what he calls the Foreman defense. So George Foreman, when he got tied up on the ropes, would go like that.
Okay.
So that's his thing.
Okay, I thought that was a Gracie Combatives thing. Okay, cool.
No, Combatives just cover the face and run in.
So our version was just like this and then run in, you know. But anyway,
that's Henry's thing, man. I don't teach that. I don't teach either of those.
So I'm sure it would have worked on some untrained people.
Yeah.
You know, you take an untrained person and then like a untrained. This is the thing, like functionally, if you watched me, you know, doing that MMA, you would never guess I had any striking experience. You know, I just had no idea what to do. Like, here's the thing, cognitively, I know exactly what to do. I watched boxing. I watched MMA. Like, you know, head movement, slips, right? Jab straight, you know, all this stuff. Like, cognitively, I have a decent, I'm not an expert by any means, but cognitively, I have a decent understanding. It's not like I don't have an idea of what I should be trying to do. And all this drilling. And yet, because it was never in this embodied dynamic context, I got wrecked, you know, like absolutely pieced up. So
okay. When it comes to jiu-jitsu, there's no version, well, there's no real version of doing jiu-jitsu where you do not get wrecked. You have to spar.
Yeah.
If you don't spar, you're never going to feel the variables. Hickson calls it having to flow, right? So the idea of being in between moves and knowing what your outcome should be, but you don't get a say in the matter. So that's where sparring is the most important part. All right, there is a different version, because when I teach self-defense, it's going to be very hard to teach a 53-year-old mother of 4 like here you go, ground and pound. Fuck around, find out, bitch. Like, no, dude, we're going to deal with hair grabs. We're going to deal with distance management, control of the middle, invisible jujitsu, which is basically weight distribution through connection. So, and that one gets this weird, like, voodoo kind of feel to it when you talk about it. So, and Henry calls it hidden jujitsu. So, what you're doing is you're controlling the part of the body that's trying to do something through weight distribution and connection. That's what makes Rickson feel different. That's why you hear all those like weird voodoo rumors like, hey, he took my soul. And then you got guys that are on the other side like, he'd be like a purple belt nowadays. Most people are fucking too far on either side, and there's a middle lane where it's basic engineering principles. You know, like if I'm connected to you and I lean into my hand, it's strong, but if I lift my elbow higher than my wrist, it got stronger. So it's super simple to understand if you use words properly. The idea of just doing dance moves over and over again with no duress, I think that's what people call drilling, and that's why it gets such a bad rap. So if I call that a drill, like learning how to do the movement without any variables, at least you're learning how to do the movement. If you can base movements on something broader than the move, you can teach more things. I think the quote is, try to see the way broadly you see it in all things. I don't want to teach 1,000 moves. I want to teach one concept that is in 1,000 moves. If you can get that concept, I can build on that concept. So if I can teach you a concept and then I have you live spar and that concept is sitting in the back of your mind, like, okay, control the middle and lean forward. Okay, don't overdo it, don't underdo it. When they start to move, you help them move. Those are more important than like the crunch sweep. Like, cool. Right. You're going to have to show me how to do it. I'm going to have to do it a couple fucking times. You can teach jujitsu as a form of self-defense as conceptual things because it should be self-defense. Self-defense would be situational awareness. So if I'm doing takedowns, I should know not to put my nose on my fucking toes. Situational awareness goes both sides of the tracks, right? So control of the middle, that goes both sides of the tracks. You are teaching a concept, and the concept is good for self-defense as well as the sports. If you don't know self-defense, you don't know jiu-jitsu, patent pending, Rickson Gracie. So when I'm teaching, it's very important that the concept is there primarily before the move we can attach to it. If you want to get good at jiu-jitsu, you can't just learn a concept and a dance move. What we have to do is we have to start to add stress. So if I have a brand new student, that student, we do the front choke defense, it's a dance move. Okay, front choke defense, but what if I can headbutt you? Okay, here's what you need to add on to that. Okay, what if I squeeze like this? What if I squeeze like this? What if? Once we get all the what ifs down, we need to add some stress. What if I start shaking you? What if I push you up against the wall? What if I go to punch you instead? What if? We have to add stress. Even then, when you are doing all of this basic self-defense curriculum, and this is like, you don't really get this in a lot of schools. I'm sure that there are some, because I keep saying that, like a lot of people don't teach it. And there's probably like 4 or 5 people that do, and I don't want to offend them because I know they're doing their best, right? Because I heard myself say it the other day. I'm very adamant about that. I searched the world. I wandered the globe to be taught correctly, and it took a very long time. And it's not my fault you're not putting it out there, so don't be mad at me when I say no one teaches it. You might teach it, but you're not trying to get it out there as much. You can get yelled at by the internet like I do. Fucking just put your balls on the block. Go for it. Anyways, when it comes to the self-defense, you can add stress, but the variables. How do we start to add variables? That's where sparring comes in. And not everyone wants to spar. So what I want to do is I want to be able to give you the concept and the moves you can achieve with this concept, like base and connection. That's more important to me than how do you pass the De La Riva guard. Don't care. I used to care, and I have a bunch of cool passes, and now I have one really easy pass. But is there a De La Riva guard in a fight? I don't know, man. I don't know. That's pretty close to somebody kicking you in the nuts, punching you in the face. It's really good. And I'm not shitting on De La Riva. Oh my God, you can't win. De La Riva's a fucking cool guy. He's got some great students. But it's a guard, and the guard was contextual. Now, if we take the context away and we add violence, you're not as well guarded as you would be with 2 feet on the fucking hips kicking them in the face.
Have you seen Danaher's self-defense section of
Or he
his
just starts
Speak
like
the Floor?
fucking people.
Well,
Hockey jersey.
he's like, look, for self-defense, here's what it's gonna look like. He's like, basically, once this guy's on the floor, he's like, you
kick him in the fucking head.
got stomps and
Right.
soccer kicks.
And that's all illegal. God bless him. God bless him. Sorry, dude. I'm down. But we call it the shine box. When we stand up from open ballet judo guard, you kick him right. You show him where the shine box is. You get your fucking shine box. So, look, yeah, man. Look, fighting is a lot easier than people want it to be. And they want to Shaolin shadow box some weird shit into it and make it this enigma. Violence is simple. I said it before, and I'll say it for the rest of my life. You're a sack of water, and you could have died jerking off in the shower. Like, you're not tough. You die by accident. Trust me. You ever seen that show 6 Feet Under? Do yourself a favor. Just watch the cold openings for 6 Feet Under. Just watch people just die from stupid fucking things. I had a friend that was carrying a desk up the stairs and he cut his femoral artery by his hip and then nearly died. It was a little nick. Yeah,
Wow.
dude, you're a sack of fucking water. You're not tough. Learning self-defense is important to me. And I enjoy the art of jiu-jitsu because it's like surfing. It's honestly, when you start to roll with another person, you're not in control. You're not there. You're not thinking about your taxes. You're in this present moment Zen fucking thing with another human being, physical contact, dopamine dump. It's the ocean to me. I'm surfing with another person and I fucking dig it. I really do. I like it. You can't pretend like this is the be all and end all. It's a piece. It's a piece of the puzzle. Right? You have to understand grappling just as much as you have to understand break falls. Whether you like it or not, you have to understand wrist locks. Stop lying to yourself. Those are real. And if you tap to one, that's your fault. You should actually understand what they are. Don't just shit on things and then get tapped and go, ooh, Aikido. Can't be a knocker. When it comes to learning jujitsu, you can't just drill. You can't just do these games. You have to be in the shit. You have to go out and, again, like I said, you do not have to. I can still teach you these concepts and I can still talk about situational awareness and primary and secondary location stuff. There's important shit on this side of the fence that everyone's ignoring because they're Billy Badass on this side. I've got 30 medals. At what? You fucking idiot. Like, this side of the fence, though, is one of the most important sides of the fence. It's just filled with douchebags. Over here, you are learning how to feel more than do. And you're learning how to be under duress and under pressure. You're learning how to be comfortable in hell. If you're not doing that, none of this stuff over here is going to really be real.
Yeah.
Like, it's 80%. I can get you to 80%. I promise. Like, you're going to feel a whole lot more confident. You'll be able to slip out of stuff and get away, that kind of shit. I can. But what if? But what if is on this side? And what if has become this contextual fucking nightmare where, yeah, but what if? And then they go upside down. Okay, well, I didn't come here for that. I want to come here for the what if he kicks me in the face? What if he's soccer kicking me wearing a hockey jersey? What if there's a bald man in a hockey jersey, soccer kicking me in the head in a padded fucking basement somewhere? What do I do? So that's more important to me is this side needs to have a different version of context. Sorry, John.
We love John.
I
Gotta
fucking
love
love
him.
John. Dude, no, like I've met him, I've trained with him at some seminars, and like I've been to the Blue Basement. Fucking wealth of knowledge, dude. Genuine wealth of knowledge. I'm not shitting on anybody, and I'm definitely not shitting on De La Hiva. I didn't shit on Taraka Plata. They're just funny fucking names. I just want you to understand. Please stop being such a dick on both sides. That's why I'm here, is because you're not being a dick and we get to talk about things. And I like the way that you're trying to present a new way of teaching. And I would like this new way of teaching to transfer over to what I'm trying to do. I don't know what the rest of you are doing. Fucking you get on here and get yelled at. Anyways, the long story short, because I did I talked for a long time. I want the person to understand that they don't get to learn without suffering. And you have to spar. You have to spar, and if you don't spar and you don't fail, you don't get good. Here, 80%. You can have your 80%. Cool. You never get a belt. You don't get a belt for self-defense.
So I really like that idea of teaching concepts. And I think that's something where the CLA specifically has an enormous amount to offer, right? Because we get to like directly, bypass the techniques, work on the concepts, right? Like, so, concept of like the center line or inside control. Well,
when you're teaching moves all the time, it's kind of in the moves. It's always in the game, but there's a reason that's important. There's a functional reason why inside control is helpful for creating control, for creating submissions, entanglement, for all sorts of things, right? We know as experts, as instructors, we know this, right? So we can use that expert knowledge to guide the students towards these goals, right? If someone comes in off the street, they say, okay, I gotta beat that guy in a grappling match or self-defense thing or whatever. Yes, okay, what are you gonna try to do? They're not gonna tell you, I'm gonna start getting inside, they're not gonna know that, right? They don't have that education of intention to know which goals are valuable, right?
Yeah.
And so that's something where, with the ecological approach, we can directly say, now, granted, I don't think this is the best way to do it, but as a way to maybe get you on board a little bit, you can have people train that directly, right? Okay, just try to get underhooks, right? And work with resistance. And so by working directly with resistance, that covers all the what ifs, because the what ifs are embodied, right?
I don't know.
You get to feel it. Well, but that's what it is, right? So so you're trying to teach someone a rear naked choke, right?
No, let's
like
go
you
back
said.
go back to the double unders. So if
Okay.
you're trying to teach someone how to pummel, like honestly, you're trying to teach, because here's the thing, a lot of people don't know what pummeling's fucking for. Like, what's your goal from pummeling? You just want to get the arm under, and then one of the arms over, and then maybe another arm over.
Yeah.
You wanted the tailbone. You wanted double unders. That's your primary goal. So if I can tell the person what a primary goal is, like your goal is to get 2 arms underneath and touch the tailbone. Yeah, but what if he pushes his butt back? Then you're going to pummel. And so if I can give you context and tell you why you're doing a thing, as opposed to, I want you to get those arms underneath, go. And then the person doesn't let them. What happens when they just can't? Because I remember, it's like the shitty training partner when I was coming up. Like, you show a move, we go to drill the move, and then your partner won't let you do the move. I didn't learn the fucking move, so I didn't understand what I was trying to go for.
Yeah.
This isn't live sparring. You're just being a shitty partner. You're being a bad uke,
Right.
bad guy. So I don't see how that helps.
So that's from the perspective, when we're thinking about it from the moves perspective, right?
Yeah.
If the brain is storing moves, then that makes sense. Then it's about how successfully can we recall and execute that action. And if we can't do it, we fail. And then, maybe we got to modulate the difficulty so that we have some success rate and there's, functional amount of information. But for us, the moves don't exist, right? It's about getting towards the goal. Right? Like you were saying, how Hickson calls it flow, of like, you don't insist on one thing. Something happens. You do something else and then they do something else and you do something else. And that something else is whatever is most effectively guiding you towards that functional goal, which in this case would be getting underhooks. So for us, say we play the game, right? Because I think this is a real core of the practical problem. When you judge success by, did someone do the move? Now as much as we want to add stress and add resistance, like you're saying, we have to ease it back or people cannot do it, right? Like if that's the success metric and, new woman comes in, partners with me, okay, try to get underhooks, you're not getting any. And okay, so now it's, forget the motivational issue, but then you would say, oh, there's no learning there. Well, actually, there's a lot of learning that happens. If that's done against resistance, now she's learning how I get underhooks and how she can.
Couldn't you just?
You could. So you could say that. Again, you could totally say that, but you haven't.
Teaching themselves.
There's a way in which it has to be an embodied learning, right? So for instance, like just as a thought experiment, if you have any new student come in, they partner with me, okay, try to get underhooks. You tell them whatever you want. You could spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 20 hours, 50 hours. You spend a whole year lecturing them. It's not going to matter. I'm going to beat them every time because I played that game a lot, right? Against full resistance. So, and the reason for that like you would agree that would happen, right? Like you could just imagine, like if you just lecture them They don't drill it at all. They don't get any resistance.
No, yeah, I'm with you, but like, hopefully there's no instructor that just fucking lectures, because if you
Sure,
just
sure. Again, that's totally an extreme. Absolutely.
yeah, no,
Absolutely.
I'm with you.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's an extreme on both sides. I feel like if you just gave them some basic parameters and said, like, if they do this, you can get the underhook. Now, if they're resisting this way, do this. Do this.
Sure.
You know?
Well, yeah.
Give them a cheat code.
If you take a functional orientation, I really want to push you to try this, because I think the more you do this, like, just test it. You're open-minded enough and like honest enough that, like, as you try this, you will see, like, some people have got the blinders on so deep that they're going to see whatever they want to see no matter what, right? Like, you're not like that. So I think if you actually test it, you know, you're going to start to see for yourself. So for instance, like, okay, so you get the new people and you say, all right, okay, so say our thing, the concept of what we want to teach is inside control. For the listeners, I would not teach like this personally, but this is a big step up, I think, from the traditional approach. So we want to teach inside control. Underhooks are a great way to achieve inside control of the upper body. So we're starting from standing. Both people, I want you to work towards a body lock. You're getting inside both your partner's arms. So you could work to one underhook, but what we need to do is connect both arms around your partner's torso. Connect the underhooks together. And that's a good thing. Try it. Go. And so what you can experiment with is, as you have that functional orientation, have them try it without any instruction. See what happens. And then you can experiment with, okay, what happens if you give them a little bit of instruction on how you do the movement, right? What happens if you tell them, like, okay, to get the underhook, you know, any of the details that you want to say on, like, how you should do the underhook. What I expect that you'll see, and I want to hear back from you, your experience of using it. What I expect that you'll see is the difference will probably be very minimal. For us, what we think is really important is the education of attention and intention. What should you look for? What should you try to do? Other than that, the verbal instruction, like, it doesn't have enough bandwidth to cover what all your joints should be doing as they're doing all this dynamic stuff.
Okay, so
right?
What you should look for and what you should do.
Yeah.
That's all.
So, like,
That's all I'll give them. And
yeah. So, like,
around and find out.
You know, if someone's, for instance, like, if you're looking for a takedown. So, okay, another game is, I want you to connect your chest to your partner's hips. This teaches people to shoot for a takedown, right? And so what you might look for, so that's your intention. Connect your chest to your partner's hips. And for your attention, it may be helpful for you to do that. You're going to have to get around your partner's defensive frames, their head, their forearms, their hands, right? So you may
I love
want
when
to
you
look
start
for,
moving on camera because it's a podcast. Nobody's really. There was a moment here, by the way, that he was like on his ass with his legs in the air doing shit. This is fun.
So, you know, their defensive partner is going to be here. So you want to look for and create opportunities where their head, hands, and forearms are out of the way and you can get to their hips, right? So that's an attentional cue. That's an intentional cue. I would argue, I would bet any more information you give them, like, there's an argument that maybe there could be a more accurate way a more accurate cue to draw people's attention to. But I would argue that any more information than that, intentional focus, attentional focus, it's not going to help people at all. It may even be counterproductive. So, and so that's the thing. Try it and see, and, like, let me know what you find. But I bet that'll be what you find.
Okay. So the first thing that I'm saying, because I'll try, fuck it. I'll get my students to be like, all right, get the double unders. Go for it. That's your goal. And I guarantee the first thing I'm going to see, there's going to be a guy that sticks his ass back and his nose before his toes.
Right.
And they can't get the double unders. And they're going to be like, well, coach, how do I get the double unders? I'm like, I don't know. I can't teach you.
Like the guy you're talking about the guy that he's like back here and he's trying to get on.
So how are they going to get double unders?
Well,
so
that's the thing. Like,
arm pummeling drill that could have been a snap down.
Well,
so if I can teach them the idea of the person stands up too straight, you can take them that way. If they put their nose before their toes, you can take them that way. So I'd rather teach them a concept and say, okay, I want you to start here in the middle and I want you to grab your partner's tailbone. When you grab their tailbone, if they push their tailbone back, you slip out the back. That's a drill. That's a concept. And you can take that with you for the rest of your fucking life, as opposed to break a finger, maybe. I don't know, pommel. Shit happens. So that's what I feel like it's gonna be.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have a big boy who really doesn't want to lose in front of his coach, and I'm gonna have a little guy with a pinky that looks like the letter T by the end of the drill. You know, I think that's the only downside to this, is that if I give them parameters and I give them the knowledge, and then I send them out to fucking fuck around and find out on their own terms, as opposed to brand new person, don't let them get double unders. You get double unders. Like, I feel like it's just an injury waiting to happen, honestly. And that's just not me shitting on another idea. It's me as a coach of like fucking 20 years.
Yeah.
I've seen people do the stupidest shit because every human is full fucking retard. Like, we're all dumber than we think we are at all times. So, like, somebody the other day literally said, like, oh, it's so simple. Why didn't I think of it? Like, you don't. It's just trial and error until somebody else comes up with the idea and goes like, I figured out that problem that's fucked with us for 20 years. Here, do you want to hear the answer? Fuck you, I don't want the answer. I'll find it myself. We're just full circling. You know, like,
but those answers are like, we can give those as intentional or attentional focuses. I'll give you the example of like the last technical detail I got that was really helpful. So we would play a game a lot of, you know, you're in mount and you've got an arm pinned to the partner's head and you've got your hands, you know, connected, head on the inside, right? So you're not already in the head and arm, but you're close. Yeah. And your goal is to finish the head and arm. And I was having a lot of, you know, I could do it, but I was having a lot of trouble doing that against anyone skilled. Like, if someone was good, I was having a lot of trouble with that. And I watched the Gordon instructional, and I saw a detail of not, like, just squeezing and not, like, I had heard cues of, like, because I had asked people, okay, I'm playing the game, right? Oh, I'm struggling. What should I do different, right? And then it got different things of, like, you know, think of your arm like an ice cream cone, and you're trying to stuff as much ice cream in the cone, and, you know, that's your partner's head and shoulder. Right? So, like, okay, that's a nice cue. It didn't really do the trick for me. What did the trick was Gordon's cue of pulling your elbow down, like crunching with your lat down to your hip. And when I did that, it, you know, made a big difference. But that's just an intentional focus. Like, it's a little bit of like, okay, the goal is still get the choke, and I'm failing, but then in that embodied dynamic context of the actual task with actual resistance, then you get that little cue that, oh, I tried it. Oh, now it helps me get to it. So now I get to, you know, again, that's where those cues can be useful. So to go back to the example of the underhook guy with his hips back, right? Like, you're an
intentional cue.
Intentional cue, yeah.
So an intentional cue is like someone coached you. Like,
yeah,
you should try and do.
Yeah, as opposed to like how you should think about it and like,
what was
you know, attention. So like we think, again, like the direct perception is like, you know, there's perception and there's the things that you pay attention to that come into perception. And then there's like, what action possibility are you trying to do and perceive? That's intention.
Intention.
Yeah. So, you know, we're educating those directly through embodied experience, direct learning, fuck around, find out. But we can also help educate those with cues, right? No one's saying that we don't have to use that. We agree on that. But so, for instance, with our underhook guy, you're an experienced instructor. You've been teaching this a long time. You already have a good idea. I have no doubt in my mind that you're going to see people exactly like you said that, you know, they fight for underhooks with the hips back, right? But the thing is, they're not going to succeed doing that, right? If that's actually not useful, they're going to fail doing that. And that's going to be a really strong, if they're actually really trying to succeed, if their focus and intention is really on, I want to get the underhooks, they're really doing the task, they're going to learn pretty quick that that doesn't work. You know? And again, you can tell them, hey, especially that guy, you're like, hey, you might do a lot better if you get your hips in. But, like, that's not going to really work. It's not, the learning isn't really going to happen until it's happened in an embodied way.
All right. So we're assuming for the person to learn faster, they have to fail physically not be told, they will fail.
I mean, you can tell them, but like the physical part
Where's
is
the
really
part of that?
critical.
Okay, all right. So the physical part is really clear.
Again,
What if we bypass the drilling aspect? So this is me thinking
Yeah.
outside the box.
yeah.
Or not just shitting on it.
Mhm.
What if I start with a student and I say, okay, so this is double unders and this is how you hold the clinch. If you hold it like this, I want your partner to push their ass back and their head forward. They can't. Then you're doing it right. Okay, lift your thumb a little higher. Can they push their ass back and their head forward? Yes. Then you're doing it wrong. So they feel it wrong. Because one of the things that I do is I get them to do the move wrong. So they understand what the word wrong means to me. Because when I'm like yelling at the internet and I say, teaching this correctly, what
Yeah.
I mean by correctly is not like I said it was right, you're wrong. No, what I mean by correctly, I mean the most efficient version I've ever learned. This is the most efficient thing for that, period. If you can show me another version that's more efficient, that would be correct, right? So if I say, hold the tailbone itself, if you can manage to straighten your arms and lock in the tailbone, they can't push their ass back no matter how strong they are. Now, put your hands above the tailbone, and I want you to feel it when it's not there. And then they break it, and then they've got Haragashi. They've got a whole bunch of cool throws, you know?
Yeah.
So if I can literally have you feel wrong, feel right, and then do the moves, I feel like I've cut out the middleman of broken fingers. You get what I mean?
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can tell you from playing these games, you know.
It's just not as fun because you don't get to play the game.
No, I mean, I can tell you. For a while, I was doing this, you know, 4 times a day, and I could tell you, you know, the injury risk is probably higher than just drilling with like very little resistance. It's much harder on the body, right? You can imagine sparring versus like just drilling a underhook, you know, thing. But, you know, it's pretty minimal injury risk. Like, you know, I've never seen anyone, have I jammed my thumb a lot of times? Like grip on? Absolutely.
What?
But, like
what are you talking about?
broken fingers, like
What? What were you
it
doing,
happens.
broken fingers? You don't break your fingers in jiu-jitsu. What are you
Yeah,
talking about?
I dislocated
The
my
gentle-
pinky.
The
You
gentle,
know,
everything I do is dainty now on both hands. No matter what, I drive like the queen. I'm having a sip of Coke. They're fucked for life.
yeah, but like I dislocated my pinky years ago sparring with an MMA guy, by the way. But never in all these grip fighting games, like probably hundreds of hours of them, you know, no broken finger. Again, it could happen, as you know, shit happens. But like it's not that
It's
bad.
less about the injury. It's more about the time. So
Yeah, that's
feel-
the important part.
yeah. So for me, I feel like if I can physically, like, you feel. That's the thing about Hickson's Jiu-Jitsu that really pulled me into Hickson's Jiu-Jitsu was feeling it. Because
Yeah.
no one fucking believes it until they feel it.
Yeah.
Period. Everyone thinks they're the GOAT. Like, you feel what the intent is, and you're like, oh, shit, I have no idea what I'm talking about. Like, for real. And that's not just me like, he's the best. Like, no, I literally do this because I felt it, and I was like, God damn it, that's correct. That's
Yeah.
correct because
It
it's the
feels
least
better.
it's the least amount of moves, the least amount of flexibility and strength. I barely have to do anything, and it works.
Yeah.
That's what efficiency is, and the
Yeah.
gentle art was originally about efficiency, blah, blah, blah. Now it's become, like, sport grappling is who's going to be the faster, who's going to be the stronger, who's going to know how to do this move the fucking meanest. I'm doing this move, as opposed to what it originally was, which was the weaker person taking advantage of deficits, you know? So I feel like there's a huge difference between the two of them now. So when I try to explain something to somebody, it's less about fuck around and find out, because I already did. You know, I got a bunch of other guys behind me, in front of me, that already fucked around and found out. And then they said, hey, don't touch that hot pan. You know, you put your nose
Right.
between your toes, they can punch you in the face faster
Right.
than you can defend.
Right.
What
Right.
happens if you're not fast anymore and you had a bad
Yeah.
day at the office? You know, like, I feel like if I can get these principles and concepts across clearly, I don't have to have them drill physically over and over again to realize that I was right. You know, I don't know, because I like the way you guys are doing this. I like the idea of the constraint-led stuff. I genuinely do. I admit it. I like it. But there's parameters for me where
I'm
it's
gonna
like,
cut that clip.
that's the only thing you're gonna do. So I'm never gonna not teach the way that I teach, But I'm always going to listen to the way other people teach because I can grow and I can learn and I can change. But the way I'm teaching, I haven't had one student not understand. I haven't had one student go away worse, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I understand, like, it's a new and it's a cool way of doing things, and people are having fun doing it. And that's very appealing, right? But I think there's got to be a middle ground, right? That I can shave off some time for you. Because, that's where the term coach comes from. It's literally what used to take you from a place to a place. You would hop in the coach, and the coach would take you somewhere. Yeah, that's where the
I didn't know that. That's where it came from? No way.
Yeah. So that's why I'm a coach. Because what is professor? Professor in Portuguese or something is like a coach. I can't remember. But they use the term professor as like he's a professor of jiu-jitsu because it's like you got a doctorate in doing stuff. It's like you don't call the doctor, hey, jackass, fix me. Like it's just a sign of respect. But the term coach, because I got a lot of friends, like when I was in America, they called me professor, which is really fucking weird. And in Australia, it's coach or hey, cunt. So like every country's different with their version of respect. But a coach is someone who can take you from point A to point B safely and faster. So I feel like coaches could do a better job at being better coaches.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And so the evidence is pretty clear, I think, that like the traditional approach works. People do better with instruction than nothing, right? But then it's also suggesting people do better with the CLA than with instruction. And
yeah, but it's also suggested. Like, where's the proof? Is it just in competition?
no, I mean, there's a lot of research in a wide variety of
other
sports.
Right? I think you said other areas of sport. Is there any kind of proof about jiu-jitsu yet?
No, I'm trying to run a study. If you want to help with that, like basically the hard part is like we just need people. Like we need as many people as possible.
You mean like competitors?
No, it's just anyone. I mean, so trying to ideally we'd break it up and do like it'd be really interesting to do beginners with zero experience because I think that at least used to be a big area for like pushback and like theoretically. That's an area where if people were going to learn moves, if we learn moves and install them in the brain, then it should be the most helpful for beginners to learn those moves.
I've got, there's a club over here that's all hipster no-gi, and the guy who runs it's super nice. I like him. I could put you on to him.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's anyone or you or anyone you know that like is down to, or anyone that watches, if anyone that's down to like help,
I'll send you a link to
do a thing, and
maybe you guys could talk about this. I've been running this Sydney Academy for probably like 3 months, so it's taken probably like 6 months of like gaining the instructors and then teaching them the principles. And now, because for me at my academy, I've got a baseline of concepts in a syllabus that I want everyone to understand. And then once a month, we pick a content. Like, let's say we're doing half guard bottom this month. That's it. My academy, I've gotten them up to the level where we're doing shark tanks and sparring with intent because I need you to have specific intent. I don't want you grabbing lapels and putting your feet on the lapels to stop someone from passing a guard. I have to get that out of their system. Because I'm starting with students that have been around for like 10 years. And I have to take away things like, can you punch him in the head? Can you kick him in the dick? Okay, so let's try and make that guard a little bit tighter. So now you're still going to be able to use it for sport and you'll be able to use it for the street, blah, blah, blah. I have to build them a certain way and then we start to add stress. So the next level of stress for me is I'm going to have one person in the middle with one boxing glove, like a fucking good 10 ounce maybe. But the other person has to clinch. You got to clinch that guy, and he's only got one glove, and he's just punching the shit out of you to begin with. It's nothing technical, but you're going to get popped a couple times, and then you're going to start to... We're ecologically learning dynamically. Holy shit. So you have to go and hug that man without getting punched in the face with that pillow. He only gets one pillow, so we're going to ramp it up now. He's got 2 pillows, so I got to start to build up that version. So for you, another person that would be interested in doing something like this is the no-gi grappling dorks that went off from another place. And he'll probably be like, I fucking love ecological. Blah, blah. He loves this shit. But it could be good for you to have, I think I've done like the air dick suck twice now in your episode. I'm the worst guest. I'll get him for you so that you guys can start to test it out or something.
That'd be
that
really
would help
cool.
a lot more than me.
Yeah.
I'm good to talk to and tell dick jokes to. I'll have a chat with you all the time. Probably never going to do anything you tell me to. I will try. I will try.
Yeah, I think as you try it, you'll start to see and
I'm going to send
gravitate
you
a little
pictures
more.
of all the kids with jammed fingers.
This
is your fault, Rev.
Every little scrape they get, you know. This is
Every
your
injury
fault.
is your fault from now on.
But
Okay,
when we chat, you'll have hopefully tried some of this, and then we can chat about that, and that'll be interesting.
I fucking will. Yeah, like I
Yeah.
don't just knock things. I will try it, and then I will tell you if I like it or if I don't. Honestly.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, and so just really quickly to say, I suspect you will see, like, if you were to, for instance, skip the drilling and just go straight to, like, here's the guy with the one boxing glove, you gotta clinch him, and, like, maybe he's not going that hard, right?
I like that one. I think
Straight
we should
to, like, because that's a great idea, right? That's a
Yeah.
constraint.
Well,
you
then
know?
we're already in agreement because I already do that with my students.
But we just skip all the drilling stuff. We're like, that's not doing anything. Let's get rid of it. You
No,
know?
I got to teach them. So if I don't teach them the flinch drill on the wall, they're never going to get in for that clinch. Sorry, it's not going to happen.
Well,
Like,
then
they're
you
gonna-
just have the guy do it easier, you know? Like, give him a 20, I don't know if they make 20-ounce gloves, but, like,
I
give
don't
him,
know,
you know,
dude,
one of
because I teach it
the
in the class. Because
one
it's
of the-
part of the class. At the very start of the class, okay, do your warm-ups because my warm-ups have intention. I want you to do these 5 things, whether you like it or not, for the rest of your life. Shut up and do them. Then, when I teach this, we'll start off with a flinch drill. So everybody on the line. So up against the wall, you can't back away. You got to hold your hands up. You got to take it across the center line. You got to block. Okay.
Yeah.
So now there's one guy in the middle. He's going to touch your face. You need to give him a big hug. I built up all the way to that. At one point, I was swinging a noodle so you'd come and hug me without getting hit with the fucking noodle. Nope. There's no way I'm just throwing Granny under the bus. Like, just clinch the guy with the 20-ounce.
I mean, you don't have to, like, yeah, you could go straight to things with the noodle, right? Or, you know, like, yeah, like, okay, we're straight to another guy, but he's just going to try to touch your head.
See, I
Right?
like the fact that we're talking about this and we're both basically doing the same things. We really are. It's the same thing with bigger words. It's the same thing with bigger
I will
words.
say, a lot of people say this, and I think if we were both teaching a class side by side, they'd be even if we're teaching the same direction,
I know.
they'd be very different. We'd have people doing very different things. And then even when they're doing similar things, it'd be with a different intention.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Now, there's a lot of similarities because there are certain things that, like,
You know what we
work
should
really
do?
well.
You know what we should do? Okay, we should pick a subject and do that. I should teach a class on a subject and you should teach a class on a subject and then we compare and contrast. Do you want to do that? Oh my God.
I'm down. Yeah, that'd be fun.
Okay.
All right.
I'm going to go. The internet sucks. I hate all of you, but certain people are lovely and I've had a wonderful time with you.
You too, Chris.
Enjoy your evening and I'll talk to you
Take
again
care,
soon.
buddy. Sounds
Take
great.
care.